This is Jocko Podcast number 478 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Also, back with us again for round 2. If you didn't listen to 477, we brought on Jason Wilson. He's back again, and we are going to talk through we're going to pick up where we left off last time. So last time, again, if you haven't listened to that one yet, go listen to 477. We cover kind of, Jason's background growing up, what he went through, and how he ended up sitting here today talking to me. Went through a lot of struggles as a young man and a lot of temptations, a lot of off-ramps that he could have taken along the way. But by the grace of God, he's here sitting with us, and we'll get back into it. So the movie comes out. Now, is there possibilities of other movies?
Yeah, the main goal was Cry Like a Man, make that into a movie. Mm-hmm. And that's what Lawrence really loved that book. He would tell me, you can't even make this stuff up. Yeah. Like, we would have to get this out. And so we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. Definitely would love to do a movie on that book. I think it'd be I know it would be really powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end goal.
It'd be good because, man, people need good examples.
Yeah.
And for someone that has been through what you've been through and to still live a life that is exemplary is just such a great example for people. And look, you're not, it's cool if we make a movie about, the football star or the rock and roll star or whatever, but to make a movie about a normal man,
yes, yeah,
that does extraordinary things in a normal environment.
You're making me think of a lot of things that, like, man, the path that I took trying to attain certain things came when I just did what God wanted me to do. So, for instance, I always wanted to meet certain rappers and influencers, and here it is, Lawrence Fishburne calling, rappers reaching out to me that are real popular, not for producing, just being a regular man helping boys and men heal and be authentic. Mm-hmm. And that's really humbling and to some extent sobering. Like, man, if you just walk in your purpose, pursue that. And I'm chasing music and all these other things. He's like, no, I need you to chase me. Mm-hmm. And when you chase me, you'll find your purpose. And then when you find your purpose, now you'll live up to your name, which Jason actually means healer. And so actually healer, the Lord of salvation. And so I embody that meaning. And so it's just looking back, even looking at the books on this table, like, man, there's 3 books from a young man that's been through so much, old man, older man. But yeah, everyone needs hope, man. As dark as this world can get at times, I'm convicted to shine my light more. A friend of mine in Jiu-jitsu, I wanted to stop. I said, man, this is too much, He says, well, when are the good guys going to get in the light? And I never forgot that. Mm-hmm. And then when Christ says we are to let our light shine in such a way that men will see our good works but glorify him who is in heaven. So we're supposed to be bright. We're not supposed to blind people where we should give them enough light where they can find their way. And so when I found that, I found the peace that I've been yearning for that nothing else could give me, mm-hmm. and the purpose. So, yeah, you triggering a lot today, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
That's wild. We were talking about, so I've written a bunch of kids' books, and when you write books, the publishers want to keep you in the category that you've been successful in. So, I had written at the time, I had written a book called Extreme Ownership, and it did mm-hmm. incredibly well, like off the charts, very lucky, blessed with that scenario. So what's the next thing I delivered to my editor, my publisher? I say, I want to write a kid's book. And my publisher, he just said to me, hey, look, no, it's like that's a totally different genre, and it's fiction, and it's kids, and it's totally different. And you don't want to, if you do that and it doesn't go well, your next book, your adult book is not going to be this thing you want about. A million reasons. And you look, to his credit, he's from that industry. I'm naive and dumb, and he's trying to help me and just say, listen, it's not worth the risk to do that. But I had the story in my head. I knew it. I was going to write it. And so luckily, I just said, well, I know you don't want me to do it, but I'm doing it. And wrote that book. And again, just very blessed, did incredibly well. And then I followed it up with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 more books, kids books. And they've all been, successful. And now they're, we filmed a movie on it. So
it's amazing, man.
It's going to be so nice to see this movie come out and the positive impact it's going to have. The messages that are in it are they're just wholesome, good messages delivered in a way that people are going to be. It's going to give a good role model to kids. They're going to see a good path forward. They're going to see that you can step up, you can face challenges, you can face the hard things in life. There's going to be hard things in life, and it's going to help kids out. So,
are you in it?
I am in it. Yes. Good. Now, the role that I play is a real stretch for me as an actor.
Why you laugh, Echo?
Because check this out, Jason. In the movie, I play a retired SEAL commander, retired SEAL lieutenant commander, who owns a place called Victory MMA and Fitness, where he teaches kids jiu-jitsu. So that's the role that I play.
Some range.
And yeah, it was a big stretch. Hopefully I didn't make Chris Pratt look too bad. Man, he's good. What a great guy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, what a great. And you said he reached out to you for a book?
So I didn't know he was following me. And so I was just blown away that I had inspired him in any way. Mm-hmm. And then to find out he's a believer as well. And I messaged him about just letting him know, like, man, I'm just blown away. And then when this book came out, The Man, The Moment Demands, I said, would you like a copy? I could send it to you. He was like, man, I love your work. Absolutely. This, and that. And when the fires happened, he didn't respond. So I wondered if he didn't get it. And so when you brought up that he's a major role in this film, I'm like, okay, thank you, guy. I just want to get him this book because he's a really cool guy, man, from what I could tell, man.
He's a great guy. Yeah, his house was spared, but the fires in Pacific Palisades, this is common knowledge, right? The fires were in Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles, California, just south of Malibu, just north of Santa Monica. That area was almost completely destroyed. And his house is, like right in there, right smack dab in the middle of it. And by the grace of God, his house was spared. Wow. But I don't even know what that means. Like, can you imagine trying to move back into your neighborhood and there's nothing there? Like, there's nothing there but ash and smoke and chemicals, and I don't know if they have power. I don't know if they have water. Like, I don't know what the situation is. So yeah, if you send it to him via mail, well,
it was in the midst. It was during that time.
Yeah. And I bet he didn't get it. But yeah, he's just a great guy, and he does a great job in the role. It's amazing to watch guys like that. He's such a pro, and he cared so much. He brought that movie to life because when how it is in Hollywood, it's nothing short of a miracle to get something actually made, right?
Sure,
so like for you to have the documentary made. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's going to take a minor miracle to get Cry Like a Man made.
Absolutely.
And what really bothers me is you'll go watch most movies that come out. You're like, how did this get made? How is Cry Like a Man not being made into a movie? And there's some random thing that's not good for human beings, and it's getting made and it's getting promoted.
Is it similar? I heard, like, even with Disney, they live off of the one hit. And the rest of the movies, even if they fail, they still survive. I'm hearing it's like that in Hollywood.
So I know that's how books are.
Yes, they are.
So with books, they publish 100 books. They want one of them to be a hit, and if one of them is a hit, they can survive for another year. I'm sure Hollywood is something similar to that. It's super expensive to make a movie, especially because filming a documentary, even that's expensive, but that's not as expensive as a feature film.
Yeah, for sure.
You get like between 1 and 3 minutes of movie a day. So on a 12 to 15 hour day of filming, you get 1 to 3 minutes of movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because it's crazy. They film it from this angle. They film if they were filming this right here, they'd film all of us three from a distance. They'd film it over Echo's shoulder pointed at you, over Echo's shoulder pointed at me, over your shoulder pointed at me, over your shoulder pointed at Echo, over my shoulder pointed at Echo, my shoulder pointed. That's, what was that? 9 takes right there. 9 takes.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. And it's expensive. And it's so weird too. Like we were filming in this martial arts place. And Echo was telling the story later. He was like, gosh, man, the way they got the sun coming into the building right now, like this is incredible. This is just such a beautiful shot because the sun is coming through the. It's
perfect time of day.
Cutting through and there's a little bit of sweat and steam in the room, so you can see the rays of the sun. And Echo's looking around, going, "Man, this is incredible that they just nailed the timing." Like, and then he realized a half an hour later it looked the same, and then a half an hour later after that, he realized, you know what? It wasn't the real sun. Wow, it's not
production.
Real. It's just the big light that looks like the sun. I showed another buddy of mine. There's a scene in a country fair, in a fair, you know, with a Ferris wheel and the different rides and the popcorn things, and one of the scenes is shot there, and it's at sunset. And so my buddy, I was showing him some pictures that I took, and he was like, "Dude, they nailed this shot with the sun right there. It looks so amazing." And I go, "Bro, that ain't the sun." And this is a picture of the sunset. You're watching this. You can see what you think is the sun. And I go, "Bro, that's not the sun." He's like, "What?" And I go, "That's a light."
Really?
Yeah, it's incredible. So everything that you see in a movie, it's so weird. It's not real. I know we know that. Like, it's not supposed to be a surprise. But things that are in a movie, they're not real things. And, you know, even at that, we had this fairground set up. It's totally fake. It's not real. But they have hot dogs, they got popcorn, they got people eating fried dough, like people with tickets, people getting on rides. And every single one of those people is an extra, is an actor that's out there, you know, doing the thing. Wow. It's crazy.
Wow, man.
It's crazy.
Wow.
But so because it's so expensive, because you have to put so much money up front, that movie has to do really well on the back end. So you're right. They have to make movies. They have to cut budgets down. They have to make as many movies as they can, and then hope, cross their fingers that one of those movies is a big hit. And the whole streaming thing now has disrupted everything. So it's wild times. It's wild times. And the thing is, from my perspective, is it opens up the story to so many more people. So like a movie compared to a book is just going to be so much more accessible to so many more people. Yeah. So if they made your book, Cry Like a Man, into a movie, so many more people are going to see that than are going to be reading the book. Gotcha. Unfortunately, you know, I wish it wasn't like that, but those are the facts of the case. Yes, as Echo Charles likes to say.
And streaming actually, it cut the movie, the lifetime down like 3 weeks now.
Oh, I'm sure it's something like that. By the way, we didn't mention this. The documentary is available. Your documentary is available on ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN Plus. Yes.
ESPN Plus.
Yep.
So if you want to watch that, it's awesome. It's awesome to watch. It's awesome to follow these kids. I'm sure you could even do a follow up of that. Because that was made what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, we started shooting. We stopped shooting right before COVID.
Oh, so that's like 4 years old.
Yeah.
So you'd be checking back in with these kids in a couple of years. Yeah, see how they're doing.
We could do that. Yeah, I still talk to them, but thankfully Helen, who was Lawrence's manager, like pushed to shoot in December because we didn't know what was coming in 2020, and so we lost 2 years there pretty much.
Gosh,
and that's what happened. Yeah, and it was unfortunate too because the boys who were going through the rite of passage, we lost 2 years with them. So it was very tough. Yeah, very tough time.
What's the percentage of people that stick with the program at the Cave? And what's the age? What age do I start?
8 years old. We start at 8 until 12 years old.
So it's 8 to 12.
Yes.
What are the percentages of kids that make it through those years?
I'd have to check on.
Is it most of them?
Yeah, I would say almost all of them because we have an 800 kid waiting list right now. And so if you're able to get in, the parents, you're not leaving. You know, they want you in there because of what it does to you outside of the martial art piece.
There was part of the movie, I was watching the movie, and they're talking to this woman, this mom, and I forget the exact thing, but she says, you know, my son was doing this, my son was doing that. You know, I tried this, I tried that, and she goes, he needed the cave.
Oh yeah.
My wife and I were watching it. My wife started laughing. She's like, "Oh, I know that feeling. He needed the cave."
Yeah, that's Crystal. Yeah. I think that's Gabe's mom. Yeah, it sure was.
She knew what was up. He needed the cave,
and that's what they say when they come. If I'm out, you know, one mother literally joined our gym where I worked out at to make sure she ran into me.
Yeah.
So
we got 800 kids on a waiting list. Is there not a way to, for lack of a better word, franchise it so other people can run a program?
It is. The problem is you have to be more than just a martial artist. So now you have to deal with psychology, emotional intelligence, and a lot of men haven't dealt with their own things to be able to help a child. And so I have great martial artists who come and say, hey, I want to help. Great. I give them a book. Let's dive into you and see where you are. And I don't hear back from them because, you know, we're running in front of bullets to save our families. But when we have to deal with our own issues, we won't go in that direction because it's painful. And a lot of men don't want to unearth those memories. And because, again, it's going to bring forth emotions that we're taught from childhood we shouldn't feel. And so, yeah, it's heart-rending. You know, you can say, well, 800 kids, that's a lot. But at the same time, it's like, man, many of these kids will age off by the time we call them. And so our goal is to make an academy, a school, middle school. That way the Cave of Adullam will be a part of the core curriculum as well. And that way we could definitely reach more kids at one time.
What's the next step in that program?
Well, we're actually going to do a summer camp this summer to pilot it, to see what it looks like for an 8-hour day for a young boy, where he has his core curriculum as well as etiquette training. Like we do dining etiquette, financial literacy, grooming etiquette as well. And so we get to see what it looks like this summer. And I've had several people, investors, like, look, you do this, I'm behind you. I have teachers who've retired because they're tired of the school system. They say, look, I'll leave my job. If you do a school for boys and it's centered around the cave, I'm there. Now, you can scale that.
Yeah.
That can be scaled.
I've had a bunch of people ask me about a Warrior Kid. So the kids' books I wrote, Warrior Kid, I've had people ask me about that since the day the book came out. You got to do a school with this. And that's one of the first steps that I've looked at is like, okay, well, maybe we could start with a summer camp. My son went to a wrestling camp called J-Rob. It doesn't exist anymore. Unfortunately, it didn't survive through COVID. But the guy, Jay Robinson, he was a ranger in Vietnam, and he was a champion wrestler. And it was a great program. I mean, it was just a great program. My son went out there, and he went with his best friend. I think they were about 14 years old in between their freshman and sophomore year. But, you know, they had to write down all their goals. They had to write down all their weaknesses. They had to write down all their strengths. They had to write down what they were going to do to get better. They had to write down what they eat every day. They had to write down how they felt. They had to write down how they performed. They couldn't. One of my favorite things, you know, when you sit on the floor, when you sit on the mat, you lean back on your hands. Yeah. Not allowed to sit like that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like all those little habits. And he came back a better human. And I remember, so every day you're getting graded, and if you get a certain demerit, you can't get this T-shirt. There's a T-shirt that says I did it. And that's what the kids want. The kids want to get that T-shirt. And the last thing that you had to do was a 12-mile run. And my son had hurt his ankle early, and so he had a bad ankle. And I was worried. I talked to him on the phone, and I said, you know, you got that run tomorrow. I said, what are you going to do with your ankle? And he said, I'm going to go to the athletic trainer and tell him to tape it up so it doesn't move. And I'm going to get it done. And he did. And I was like, okay, cool. That's that's what I like to hear, you know, tape it up.
Father like son. That's awesome, man.
But yeah, when you talk about a school, turning the cave into a school, man, that would be so
And
good. And that's how you could scale it.
That's what I see. We've tried so many other ways, and it's a need for all cultures, honestly. It's interesting on social media. You have they call them trollers. They say, why aren't any white kids in there? And I said, well, there's no sign that says colors only. I said, so that's not on me, because God didn't give it to me just for it to be isolated in one community, because it's designed really to help boys in general, because all of us are jacked up. When that video went viral, I thought it was just a black issue as far as being emotionally incarcerated and hyper masculine, etc. No, it's a man issue, and we all need help. And our kids are learning from broken men who are walking around with broken boys inside. And so it's definitely something I know is cross-cultural. I have friends who are Mexican especially. They say, man, you get some of this Mexican blood in the cave. That's what they would tell me all the time. And because they know, especially in their culture, that, provide and protect. And it's like, but I'm unhealthy. I'm not even patient with my kids. I don't even love myself really. And when you can teach an 8-year-old these principles, and then around an academic setting where typically all of their issues are, and everyone abides by these core principles and teachings, and then the centerpiece, instead of physical ed, you have the cave, you're talking about changing a whole generation of boys. Then you're talking about changing a whole generation of men, fathers, husbands, presidents, leaders. That's where it is. And that's where we're going. We're going to try it this summer and see how it works. And my desire is to scale it. And I don't want it to die with me. That's my greatest prayer. Because my body's aging out, man. It's, it feels like it's almost time, and it's like, but this can't die with me, So God, what is it? And it's like the school, the teachers, the men, and I got high quality men. And you know how many teachers are desiring for something like this? So now all you need is that one teacher for the cave, but you have the whole wraparound. Now it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so there's funding for that. A guy gets insurance and everything, and he has to teach. And your focus is the emotional stability training here to make sure that they have a foundation to be better academically. And then you incorporate job skills training, like real life training with.
This is all stuff when people asked early on, and what would a Warrior Kid school look like? And this is exactly what I went over. I literally was like, this is one of the podcasts, one of the early podcasts we did. It was teaching about how to do maintenance on a vehicle, teaching about how to use tools, how to do basic framing and trim work. And I guess if you're there, we'd have to do some tile work as well.
And change and fix a hole in the wall. That's what I was telling my friends who are going to teach the construction module of the school. I said, I don't want them to be master carpenters, master plumbers, master tile setters. I need them to be, like we would say, anything, everything they have to be at any given moment. So fix the hole in the wall so you don't have to pay $125 for a drywaller. Do you know how to change a flange on the toilet? How do you stop a leak? I mean, these are this is where your costs are going to come. And I'm like, you incorporate that with community service, financial literacy at a young age,
it's a game
open
changer.
Bank accounts for all of the students to start saving and investing at 9 and 10 years old. It's over.
It's a game changer.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be such a high demand for this kind of stuff. I think the demand exists right now, and I think it's just a matter of the market supplying it, which, clearly you're going to make a stab at it this summer. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Hopefully I can get out there over the summer.
Oh, man, they'd love to see you, especially so we have 4 of the peer instructors who were 4 of the guys you gave the rash guards to.
Oh, right on.
So they would love to see you. If you can swing it that way. You were just there for your product.
Yeah, a few years ago. I have to get.
We couldn't meet up that time, though. Yeah.
I'll come and do come and hang out at Meyer. They sell Jocko fuel up at Meyer.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. Picking up where we left off last time. So the book Battlecry. We'll talk about the premise of the book Battlecry.
I wrote that book in the midst of COVID. And so talking about dealing with your inner wars, your battles. And so many men were, because for the first time in their life, there was no escape. I couldn't say, hey, honey, I'm at work I'll be home late, and now I have an hour to talk to you so I can go to bed. You were in the house the entire time. Children, wife. And
did divorce rates go up or down?
Up.
Did they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A friend of ours who was a lawyer, she was like maxed out. It was too much because people never dealt with their real issues, especially the men. So we're taught to sweep it under the rug and keep going. And so that's why I wrote that book, is let's yell a battle cry and wage and win our inner battles before they become external wars. And that's what the premise of that book was, and to send them out to battle the real battle, and it's within us. You know that as a SEAL. Matter of fact, a gentleman named Ryan Maid, he was a psychologist for the Navy SEALs, 15 years. I met him. He works for the Royals now.
Okay.
And he was just intrigued by the Cave of Adullam. He was like, you don't know you're doing psychology here. He says, but I'm intrigued because it doesn't turn into a challenge. He said, that was my greatest struggle with the SEALs. It's like, it always turned into a challenge when you're trying to get men to deal with the emotion side. And I said, I get it. He said, how are you doing it? I said, well, I think I just model it first. When my kids first saw me cry, the crack in the armor when my mother had a stroke, I couldn't be this stoic teacher anymore. And when that tear came out and my students saw it, it not only liberated me and the fathers who were there, but it liberated them. And that's when that video went viral, because they had already were used to being transparent in that moment. And so when I met with Ryan, he was like, this is really a gift, man. And like, you should try to do it with more men as well. And he would share stories with me about the SEALs. Like, one, like you guys have to swim across, like you're not going to make it. What is that called? Where you're swimming, it's, I forgot how far you have to swim. And it was like, he was saying that a lot of guys didn't even make it all the way through.
There's so many things like that where a lot of guys don't make it. Whether it's a 50-meter underwater swim.
That's what it was.
Which again sounds kind of easy until you have, a cough and a cold because you've been in and out of the water, and then you got to jump in, do a somersault, swim. They make everything as a little bit, even like a 4-mile timed run. The 4-mile timed run in first phase is 32 minutes. That's nothing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's any high school athlete.
Yeah, you can pull that
can
off.
do that, no problem. But you get it there, and you got a cold, and you did 700 8-count bodybuilders at 2:00 in the morning, and now you got a 4-mile timed run at 4:00 in the morning. You see guys fail. And by the way, the 4-mile timed run is anywhere between 4.1 miles and 4.5 miles, depending on where they park the truck and what the tide is like. And
Did you guys run with gear on as well?
Those runs are boots, cami pants, and t-shirt.
So that's a game changer as well.
Yep, it is. So it could have been any of these things that your friend Ryan was talking about.
He didn't share a lot, but when he shared that, he says, you don't understand what you're helping them work through is what the SEALs do and how much emotions play a role even on the battlefield. And that's what drew me to you, man, hearing how you, especially at Ann Arbor, you were talking about the emotions and how you have to control them in the moment or you're done. And I'm thinking on the battlefield, if you're frantic and we need ammunition and you're lost emotionally, we're done.
Yeah, done.
And so, I didn't know that seems attainable running, but when you add all those other factors in, that's why I was taken aback when you said that, like, man, I could do 7-minute mile on a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tried to get that down, but my knees is like, you need a Peloton, Jason. But that I know if we did a school, man, especially even with your book, what you're talking about in the movie, it's already a demand for it. That's why the boot camps existed, and the Scared Straight programs, was just the wrong formula. It didn't work. It made.
Did they do? Or do you know about research about the Scared Straight program? Did they track, and did it help any of those kids?
I don't know about the research. I can tell you about the boys that I knew who went through it and the schools who participated. They stopped within a year.
No kidding.
Yeah, they didn't see the improvement. You didn't deal with the core issues. You didn't deal with the why. It's similar like with martial arts. You want to know how it works, but not why it works. In a real fight, techniques will look different because you don't have a compliant attacker. Even when you're rolling with someone, you still know this guy. You know this girl. It's a lot missing from that.
A role in the gym is different from a role in a competitive match, which is different than a fight, which is different than a fight to the death. Like each one of those things has its own.
He say to the death. Guy pull out one of these. It's like, it changes significantly, and that's why I love when you said the best self-defense is a gun. Then you said if someone pulls a knife out, run. Yeah. People don't understand. No. Like, dude.
There's a whole category. I was going to talk about this a little bit on the last podcast we did, but I was talking to a young SEAL the other day, and so when we do training, we do force-on-force training, which means you're going to fight other living people, and we use paintball, a form of paintball. It's called simunition, and you use your real gun, but you have a different barrel for it, and now you're shooting paintball, but it's your real gun. And it's very realistic. It's very realistic because, your pistol has simunition. If your primary goes down, you switch it. You're moving down the hallways and you can put down cover fire. But there is still something that's missing. And it's very similar to what you were talking about on the last podcast with knife fighting and like how there is a certain psychological element that you cannot train properly with a fake knife. Just like there's a psychological element that you can't train properly with fake bullets. And it's this right here. So if you're a bad guy and you're down the hallway from me, you can, come out of your doorway and start shooting at me. And you could put down a whole magazine and get good, accurate fire on me by looking down your sights and shooting at me. And if I'm in the hallway, I'm going to get killed. What doesn't exist in that situation is the actual human fear that you would have as a bad guy sticking your head around the corner. Now, when you're a jihadist, you don't care if you live or die. Some jihadists don't care if they live or die, so they're just going to do it anyways. But some of them are going to be like, oh, well, I don't actually want to die right now. And you see the guys doing the Medal of Honor runs. Like you'd see a young SEAL we'd be in a paintball fight in training. You'd see a young SEAL go out, charge across, grab a wounded guy who's been shot with paintball and drag him out of the street. It is cool. And guys do that for real. My guys did that for real with real bullets. But it's different when it's real than it is with training. There's just a difference there. So the closer you can get to realism, the more you're going to understand it. You're never going to quite know. And that's why I like, your instructor that said, hey, we're going to use real knives. They're dulled, but they're real. You ever seen those knives that have the sparks in them or whatever it's called?
The electric ones?
Yeah, have you seen those? You know what a taser is, right?
Yes, it's like that.
So it's like a knife taser. So it can't stab you, but you get shocked,
and you feel it,
you feel it like a legit shock. So that way you get that real fear, because you see the fake martial artist that's like, oh, and someone comes at a knife with me with a knife, I do this, this, and this. It's like, bro, you don't do that. No, you go,
you're not.
That's what you do.
Yeah, you're not doing any of that.
To touch you.
No.
So think about that stuff.
Can I ask you a question? So I always wanted to know, is it true that swim you were just telling me about that Ryan talked about, if a SEAL goes under, does he pass out for a while and you revive him? I heard about that. I didn't know how true that was. So get the fear of death out. Is that accurate?
He might have also been talking about something called drown proofing. And in drown proofing, they tie your feet together and they tie your hands behind your back. And then they put you in the water. And you've got to float, I forget what it's called, survival float for 10 minutes. Then you've got to swim, I think it's 100 meters. It's down to one end of the pool, back to the other end of the pool, and back to where you were. So it's 100 meters. And then you have to do something called bobbing, which is you basically go down to the 9-foot section, the bottom, and you push off with your feet. And then they have a bunch of dive masks on the bottom of the pool, and you have to, after you do the bobbing for 10 minutes, then you have to go down to the bottom of the pool and get the mask off the bottom of the pool in your teeth. You have to get it in your mouth and bring it up and then tread water until they tell you can stop. And then you dolphin over to the side of the pool and they pull you up and they go. So that's very challenging. I'd say that's more challenging for most people than the 50-meter underwater swim. Now, do they let you drown? No. Do people have shallow water blackouts? Yes, they do. They do, where they're trying to get it done and they can't, and they just go to sleep, and then people jump in and save them. But what you have to learn in those things, one of the key components of that is if you panic, you're not going to pass.
How much would you say, percentage-wise, in SEAL training is physical and emotional? Like, what would your percentage be?
It's impossible to say what the percentage is, because depending on who you are, the test will be different.
Okay, I got you.
Right? So if you are great at running isn't a problem. If you're bad at running is a problem.
I got you.
And if you're emotionally calm, or if you're just used to the water, you're going to be fine in the water. If you're not used to the water, it's going to be a problem. If you can handle some chaos, because they're going to make things chaotic, if you can handle that chaos and you can take a step back and take a breath, you'll be fine. If you can't, you're not going to be a problem. You're not going to be fine. If you can't handle someone yelling and screaming at you, it's going to be a problem. If you can realize that they're doing their job and you're going to do your job, keep your mouth shut, keep going, you're going to be fine. So what it is there's probably, they just figure out everyone's got a weakness and they're going to find it. And they can make you quit with that weakness, or you can overcome that weakness. You can embrace the weakness and go, okay, I'm not good in the water. I'm going to practice in the water. I'm not good at running. I'm going to practice running. And you can overcome that thing. But people ask that sometimes, is it mental or is it physical? Yeah. And the answer is it's both, because it doesn't matter how bad you want to do a rope climb. If you haven't trained your muscles, you're not going to be able to, you can't miracle your way up a rope climb. Sure. It ain't going to happen. You have to be able to have the physical strength to do it. And if you don't, it doesn't matter how bad you want it. You know that, you hear Coach Ripito, from Starting Strength, gun to your head with squats, gun to your head, you can get to a point where you can't do anymore.
Right.
Now, generally speaking, that's heavier loads, right? If you do a true 1 rep max and I put a gun to your head and say, give me one more, you can't do it. Can't do it. Now, if you're doing 20 rep squats and you got your 20th one and I put a gun to your head, you can probably get one more. You can probably get one more. In speaking of SEAL training, you know how many push-ups you can do? You can do one more. You can always do one more.
That's true.
You can always do one more. It's going to be sloppy. You might have, but you can, you're just going to be, and they'll do that with squats. They'll do that with sit-ups. They'll do that with push-ups. How many squats you can do? You can do body weight squats. You can do one more. Yeah. You can do one more.
That's true.
Somebody puts a gun to your head, you can do one more. I mean, it would have to take hours. It would probably take 12 hours before I put a gun to your head, Echo, and said, do one more squat, and you failed. You just, especially if you're okay, you could pause for 3 seconds, you could pause for 7 seconds, be all right, I'm going to start. They'll be you better do it right now. And then you go, okay, I'm going to go. And then you do it, and you got one more, because you got just enough rest to get it done. Right. You could probably do that kind of indefinitely. But a heavy squat, that's your two rep max, you're only going to do what you do. So when it comes to SEAL training, some of it, like a rope climb, you can get to a point where you can't do any more rope climbs, and it doesn't matter how bad you want it unless you've trained. So you have to be physically ready. But then the mental stuff is go get in that water again. You don't want to get in that water again. Hey, they put you in bed, in a warm bed, halfway through Hell Week. They go, hey, listen, hey, class, we just got in trouble as instructors. We're being too hard on you guys. The admiral just gave the order that we need to put you guys to bed for 8 hours, and then you're going to spend the rest of Hell Week dry. And everyone goes, oh, wow. They don't think this anymore. Everybody knows the scam now. Yeah. But you know what? You get in bed, 20 minutes, you fall asleep instantly, dry clothes, you get in bed, you fall asleep instantly, and then boom, they come back in, they're screaming, and you go get wet again. A lot of people quit. Right then, actually, they don't do it on Wednesday. It's like a Monday, Tuesday, probably a Tuesday thing. It's one of the bigger barriers to take a person take them to maximum discomfort, then give them maximum comfort, and then rip them back out of it. Yeah. That's a good way to get people to quit. And they do a really good job of getting people to quit. So it's all these things. It's all these little challenges. There's so many little wickets that you have to get through. You have to be strong. You have to be calm. You have to be lucky, because there's a certain amount of luck involved. You know, you running down the beach and you're doing landing with the boats on the rocks and you blow your knee out. Like, hey, it's just, it's terrible. It's very risky to try and get through that training. But
thanks for sharing, brother. I wanted some confirmation on a lot. You hear a lot, and I know Ryan's legit, but the other things you hear, like, I'm gonna ask Jocko himself when I see him. Yeah, but thanks for sharing, man.
You know what happens too is sometimes in storytelling, people I want you to feel what I felt. So, you know, someone will say, dude, they put you in the pool and they drown you. So there's an evolution called life saving, where you have to rescue a SEAL instructor that's supposedly drowning. So the SEAL instructor will be in the middle of the pool and you'll be next in line, and the SEAL instructor will look at you and go, help, I'm drowning. Like, they'll say it just like that. You jump in the water and you go to try and drag them to the side of the pool. Well, as soon as you make contact with them, it's a grappling match, and they're pulling you to the bottom. They're going to, you know, get inverted on you. They're going to choke you. They're going to do a bunch of stuff. Now, do they actually...
Echo laughing over here.
He's having a good time. Yeah. Do they actually drown you? No, they don't actually drown you. But if I wanted to explain to you what's going on, I'd say, dude, they're drowning you.
I got
so it's one of those things where I think people try and tell a story and they want to invoke the emotions from the people that they're talking to. And our human language isn't good enough for me to really convey, like, bro, they drown you. Yeah. And you go, you serious? Well, you know, and so those kind of rumors can get spread that way. But people do pass out underwater. People, like, the training is definitely very, very difficult, and it tests not too many. There's very, very, very few people that don't have some kind of challenge going through SEAL training. You know, very few people.
That's clear. I mean, you know, not a lot of people can make it through it, man. So,
yeah. Wow. And again, that being said, if you're an average high school athlete, which was me, I was an average high school athlete. I wasn't like, I read in your book, you're like, I was naturally athletic and really good at football. I was like, oh, cool, good for you. It wasn't me, you know? So if you're an average high school athlete, they can train you up to where you can do what you got to do to be a SEAL. But that's where the mental part comes in, because if that's all it took was being an average high school athlete, everyone would make it, but they don't. Only 20% of people make it, if that.
Got it. Wow.
So eventually, and your latest project has been assembling this idea of the comprehensive man, and that's the subject of your latest book, which is called the Man the Moment Demands. And as I read the book and I put together what that means, is it's what you've been talking about a lot in different situations. You got to bring forth the proper characteristics at that time to deal with that particular scenario. And so that's why we have to be not just the man that responds to everything the same, but you got to be the man that the moment demands. So
as you shared about your daughter, you know, that moment. Yeah.
Doing that stuff all the time. You say, just a little introduction here. While I've outlined 10 characteristics of the comprehensive man in this book, it's vital to remain open to evolving. Remember, once you've allowed someone else to define you, you can never be all you were created to be. Therefore, instead of simply conforming to perceived expectations, the comprehensive man becomes whatever the moment demands. And to me, I talk a lot about having an open mind. And that's exactly what this is. Like, you've got to have an open mind that when your daughter, for instance, reacts a certain way, you may not be correct to respond the way you were treated, or the way you treated your son, or the way you treated your wife, or the way you treated her 3 months ago.
Or 3 days ago.
Or 3 days
3
ago.
minutes ago.
3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You say this man is not defined by societal demands. In fact, this man typically chooses the opposite path of the one laid out for the masculine male, as you can see here. And you got a chart here. Mm-hmm. So on one side of the chart, you've got the masculine male, which is sort of what society has put forth. And then on the other side of the chart, you've got the comprehensive man. So the first example you give is the masculine male suppresses his emotions and hides behind a facade to appear strong. The comprehensive man expresses his emotions freely without fear of being judged. Now, we talked about this on the last podcast. There are times when you have to suppress your emotions. Mm-hmm. There are times where it's not appropriate to express your emotions freely. Mm-hmm. And what I like about this book is you've got to do the appropriate one at the appropriate time. You got to be the man that the moment demands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How often, like I share, even I think it's Battlecry, the huddle principle. Remember, they were just talking about the comeback. They thought Patrick Mahomes would make a comeback against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. They compared him to Tom Brady when he was down, 28-3 to Atlanta in the Super Bowl. And Trey Flowers is a good friend of mine. He played on that team. And he was talking about Tom's leadership in that moment. So as a husband, you become a comprehensive man. Now you're a verbal processor. You don't no longer repress your emotions. You still have to read the room. Okay? So the huddle principle says if my family is surrounded and we're in the huddle, like Tom Brady, I can't say, hey, look, no team has ever come back from a deficit this great. I'm tired. I already got 3 Super Bowl rings. I'm good. So let's just pack this up. Y'all ready? Zeus, and we're done. So that's not what I'm saying. So like you're saying, Jocko, you have to be wise and read the room. So you go to the huddle, see where everyone is at. I have to ask my wife, hey, what's your capacity right now to hear something heavy that I went to today? Is this a good time for you to receive? She either say yes or no. So that gives me permission to share. You can't, as a leader, you can't come to the huddle and say, we're done, we're going to lose. I'm just telling you, hey, I don't even have confidence no more. You got to know when. Mm-hmm. Now, for your children, sometimes with my son, it blesses him when he sees me move through fear and doubt. I said, man, I'm nervous right now. If I have to speak at a large facility or whatever it is, I said, man, I'm nervous. I purposely tell him that so he can see me move through it. If they constantly see dad as stoic and robotic and he always gets everything under control, what happens when they feel what he feel, but never seen that he feels that? Now they feel, I'm a disappointment. I can't live up to Wilson's legacy because my dad never folds. He's never nervous. He's never scared, but I'm feeling these emotions. And that's why it's our duty as men and fathers. Like, look, I'm going to show you this side, but this isn't the end of the story. So you're going to see dad nervous now, but I'm going to move through this and let's look at what happens at the end. And that's what's real important about the huddle principle is like you have the freedom now, but with that freedom to express yourself comes a responsibility to know when.
One of the things I talk about from a leadership perspective, very similar, is generally speaking, the leader has to look at the mob. Because by the way, when you're in a leadership position, you're in charge of a mob, and you're gonna have a mob mentality in your family. You're gonna have a mob mentality at work. You're gonna have a mob mentality in your team. And when that mob starts to move emotionally in a direction, you need to make sure that it's the right direction. And generally speaking, as a leader, when it's moving in the wrong direction, you're the only one that's going to get it moving back in the right direction. So, for instance, you come into the huddle and you just had a great play and it looks like you're going to score real easy and you're already up on points and everyone's getting cocky and arrogant. You as a leader need to walk in there and go, hey, listen, gents, we're doing okay, but this is still a game. We got to bring our A game right now. So you can go a little bit hard in that direction. Mm-hmm. If you're down by however many points Tom Brady was down and you get in the huddle and you're like, you can see that everyone's dragging and that no one thinks you can win, and you go in there and say, well, this is still a game, but I don't know if we can make it. Exactly like you said. No, you got to pull that mob in the other direction.
Yeah.
So that's why that's this idea of being the man the moment demands. You've got to make sure that you understand what the demands are. You can't dictate the demands to the people. You can't dictate what your 9-year-old daughter needs from you. No, what you need is this. No, doesn't work that way. You gotta, as you said, read the room. You gotta have a relationship that you go, oh, I can see this is really bothering her. Oh, somebody called her a name. You can't walk in there. Don't worry about kids calling you a name. Sticks and stones break your bones. Don't worry about it. Nope. Doesn't work like that. She got called a name. It hurt her. That's her whole world, that classroom. If you can't understand that and get there and give her the man that the moment demands right there, it's not going to work.
That's good, man. Even I would tell parents, and I've been guilty of this, my kid's tired from work or school. I say, well, no, it's not work, but school. I say, wait till you get a real job. Wait till you have to do what I have to do. Well, in that moment, I was the wrong man because I wasn't empathetic to what they were dealing with. Like you just said, school is their world. School is their work. They feel the same pressure. It just looks different. With my mother, when she had dementia and was living, I had to learn to say, if you fear balloons, I fear balloons. When I work with kids who are autistic, if you're scared, if this knife falling on this table sounds like a bomb, to me it sounds like a bomb. And so I want to be on your side. I want to feel what you feel so I can meet that moment. And that's how I'm able to help kids heal. And with my daughter, her room wasn't dirty because she disrespected dad. It was dirty and disorderly because of being bullied at school. And I missed that, and that's why I wrote this. And the dedication is to every man who is tired of being the wrong man in the moment. We can change that. And so you hit it right on the head, man. It's real important that we don't put our kids, and we've been saying this in the previous episode, let them be 7, let them be 8. Like little Jocko was in the SEAL. I mean, what's your son's name?
Thor.
Oh, man. But he's, like your wife said, he's not active duty a Navy SEAL. And so how many of us, as something not as serious as that, your son isn't you in high school playing football? He doesn't need to practice 8 hours a day. He's 7. And we're robbing these boys of life. And we wonder why, when they get older, they don't want to work with us. They don't want to work with dad at his factory or his business because there's no purpose here. There's no joy. All I remember is the hardship.
You really got to prioritize the relationship that you have, because just saying working with another human being. If you and I have a good relationship, but you'll show up early for me. You'll put out, work hard, and we'll get after it together and accomplish great things. If you and I don't have a relationship, you're barely even showing up for work.
That's true.
It's the same thing with your kids. If you don't have a good relationship with your kids, they're not going to want to practice. They're not going to want to hang out with you. It's just not going to work. So good. Prioritizing that relationship, and the relationship is trust, listen, respect, influence, and care. That's how I'd
say that again. What is it?
Those are the components of a relationship from my perspective. Trust,
yes,
listen, respect, influence, and care.
Love it. So
if I don't listen to you and you don't listen to me, do we have a relationship?
No.
If I don't trust you and you don't trust me, do we have a relationship?
No relationship.
If you don't respect me and I don't respect you, do we have a relationship? If I have no influence over you and you have no influence over me, do we have a relationship?
Nothing.
If I don't care about you and you don't care about me, do we have a relationship?
No, sir.
So that's what a relationship is. So in order to build a relationship, here's the hard part. I got to give those things. That means I got to listen to you. That means you got to listen to your 9-year-old daughter.
That's good, man.
That means you got to allow your 10-year-old son to influence you. That means you got to treat them with, I'm the dad, they better respect me. No, you better treat them with respect. You got to give them trust. You got to show them you care about them. Those things are so critical. I always tell the story about my son. My son was probably like 10 years old. He's doing jiu-jitsu. We're all training jiu-jitsu at my gym. And I see him trying to get an arm lock on an adult, but a smaller adult. But he's working. And I said, hey, get your hips a little bit more under the, and he looks at me, he's 10 years old. I said, get your hips a little more under that shoulder. And he goes, you don't have to do that. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew. I was like, oh, he's not going to want to hear this stuff from me. You know, like, okay, I got it. In this book I wrote, the kid's book, there's an uncle in the book that comes and mentors the kid. And one of the reasons why I didn't make it the dad is there's two reasons. Number one, I know a lot of kids that don't have dads. I didn't want them to think, oh, well, this will never be me. But also, I know kids don't listen to their dads in a direct manner. They do it indirectly. Your son is watching you. Your son is going to imitate you. Your son is, he's listening at a depth of his soul that he doesn't even recognize. The good and the bad, it's there. So you got to pay attention to those things.
You know, we were at Home Depot just before I came out here, and a longtime friend of mine sees me and we're talking. He knows my son because our kids went to the same school together. So he said, hey, Jay, how you doing? So Jason's driving now, rolls the window down, they start talking. He's like, you don't really know who your dad is right now. You're really too close to see him. And I looked down, I'm like, wow, that hit me because I told my wife when she was pregnant with Jason, I said, he's going to refer to me, my sobriquet or nickname will be and, because my dad can do this and this and this, you know. And when he gets to the age of where he's trying to learn independency, I'm like, don't confuse it with being isolated. But I had to send men around him like you did. That was an excellent move. Mm-hmm. I have Chris, who's my main assistant in the cave. He's the big brother to Jason. Yeah. My spiritual brother, Ron Lee, he is Jason's uncle. Mm-hmm. I got brother-in-laws, because I know as long as we have the same principles, I don't care how it's conveyed. Yeah. And that was so wise, because one of the things that breaks my heart in the cave, mothers will say, well, he's feeling this way because his dad isn't there. And so I'm glad you put the uncle, because again, like I didn't take advantage of my stepfather when he was there. I want when kids see that movie, they won't miss the other men in their lives that could be father figures. Mm-hmm. He may never be dad. You know, no one should replace dad, and can really. Yeah. But there are other men that can help you get there on that journey, man. And so that's wise. And a lot of times as fathers, we have to put our ego and pride aside and say, hey, I want what's best for my son.
Yep. Yeah, part of it is your kids are programmed to break contact with their parents so they can leave the nest. They got to do it.
That's it.
If they just continually just like live off of you like a parasite, they know that they have to break away. And for them to psychologically do that, they got to create some kind of boundary. They know they got to.
And it hurts. And it hurts. That's what we have to. I had to tell so many conflict resolution sessions with fathers and sons. I tell the dad, you're not conveying the real emotion. And so in the book, The Man the Moment Demands, I have the earthquake of emotions. Yeah. The surface emotion is anger. We quick to go there. Yeah. That damages everything we love at the surface. But if we could address the emotions at the hypocenter, where they begin. Mm-hmm. So I say, you know, if my friend is Steve, I say, you're not angry, you're hurt. You're not angry, you're scared. You're not angry, you're saddened. Express those. Mm-hmm. And when fathers learn to be transparent, like, I'm still going to be dad, but I'm going to let him know your action hurt me. My son has told me, he says, it wasn't the yelling, it wasn't the discipline. It was the fact that I knew I had hurt you that make me want to change. Mm-hmm. And so when a father can allow that side to be seen, it's a game changer. It worked for me and my son. And I love also parents say, well, how do you know when it's too much? Like, you know, parents' greatest fear is giving their children too much attention or too many resources. And they kind of let their kids fend to life themselves, or if their kid doesn't want to speak to them. Now the parent is in their feelings like, well, you don't want to talk. I ain't got to talk to you either. The worst thing you can do as a parent is to let your child go silent. Just let them be. And so I often tell parents, well, what can you live with? And so what do you mean? Well, could you live with yourself, humbling yourself, putting your ego aside, putting this parent title aside, and going in and doing whatever it takes to make the connection? Or would you rather receive a phone call that they overdosed? And always it's like, I want to put the work in. And so I give them example of my son. He's like you said, my therapist told me, he's like, don't worry, they'll come back. This is nature. They have to do this. Mm-hmm. So little Jay, he's a teenager. He wants to be in his room by himself. I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you responding that way? He's like, nothing, Dad. I'm just chilling. Or how about, Dad? I had a bad day too, and we miss that as parents. So now instead of being intrusive, like just blatantly like, hey, don't cut the light off. Don't close the door. I say, son, how you doing? Hey, Dad, can I come in? Sure. Got permission. Hey, do you mind if I can do my work in here with you? Can I just lay down here? And if he gives me permission, now the presence is what he's feeling. Mm-hmm. Kids don't really care about perfection. They want to know that you're there. And without saying a word, my presence in that room allows me to maintain, like you said, the relationship. I'm respecting you, but at the same time, I want to let you know that you mean everything to me.
Yeah. That's the last part, right? It's care.
Yes.
I care about you. I'm sitting here, and it's just like being in the same room with you is good to go.
That's it. You ain't got to say anything to me. Yeah. I could stay here on my iPad and work or read a book, but as long as I'm here, and as a father, you don't want your son not to admire you or call you, hey, Dad, but we have to let them grow. And you have to remember, too, that, man, my mother, I didn't never talk to my mom like that, or my dad. And I never thought anything was wrong. We forget that we, too, were teenagers. Sometimes we just want our own space. It doesn't mean anything is wrong. I just had a long day just like you, Dad and Mom. And so when we give our sons and our daughters that space and that we're connected, like you're saying, that your world is important to me just as mine, parenting becomes not so much as a battle. That's when you get that relationship. Yeah. That's when the child says, wow, you leave the room like, he respected me. He asked, could he come in here? Even though you pay all the bills. But the fact that you asked is teaching him something about manhood and being respected. So that's good, man. I need to write down that acronym.
That's all good. I'll text it to you.
And is that in that book there?
It's actually in this book here called Leadership Strategy and Tactics Field Manual.
All right, I need all of that before I leave here, man.
You're going to be getting a package of books at the Cave for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. We made it through one of these things in this chart. Next one, the masculine male exudes only masculine characteristics. The comprehensive man exudes both masculine and unquote unmasculine characteristics. So this is the thing we talked about in the last podcast. It's like you gotta have both sides. Mm-hmm. If you're just one side, you're not functional, or you're not functioning at optimum rate.
I tell the teenagers who like sports, especially like basketball, what if you only could go to the right, dribble to your right? Mm-hmm. You're exposed, okay? So you want a comprehensive game. MMA exposed just traditional martial arts. You can't just know one style anymore. Yeah. It's the same thing with manhood. You want to know as much as you can so you can meet the moment of a fight, an argument, or an intimate moment with your wife. Can you really be locked in? Mm-hmm. Does it have to be all physical, or can you speak to the emotions of your wife, and talk to the little girl in her that's still broken and needs to be healing? And that's a challenge for a lot of us because we're taught sexist performance as well. Mm-hmm. Like, how long can you go? What can you do? Instead of, no, I'm just going to be present. I shared in the book, Nicole had an incision vertically. And she had very self-conscious about it. And one day, because I was just open, God says, I need you to kiss that scar from the top to the bottom. And I did that in foreplay, and she just wept because it liberated her, because that was what she needed, because my wife loves me. And she says, literally, she believes God created her. One of her main reasons being here is to help me fulfill his purpose through my life. And so I was emotionally available for her, where it wasn't about the sex anymore. It was about making sure I met the moment in that bedroom to heal her. Mm-hmm. And when she cried, it was just a beautiful thing. And that's why to write about it is like, but that came from the work, like you're saying with the SEALs, care how many times you try to do the rope climb, if you're not trained, if you haven't exercised those muscles, it's not going to happen. So even if you read all of our books, if these men are out training in real time where it matters the most, practicing, when it matters the most, in those moments, you're going to blow it. And so that's what's real important. Is like, I'm looking at your books, man, and I'm like, it should be some bad brothers out here.
Yeah.
But it's a difference between, reading it and then applying it, man. So
it's like jiu-jitsu. Man, you could have Rickson Gracie himself come and teach you a course, and you could read his books, and he could show you the videos. And the first time you get on the mat, you're going to get worked because you got to do the thing.
Yeah,
that's
second
what you're
and
talking
third
about.
time, 10th time, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
And going on here, the masculine male feels threatened when another man is more successful. The comprehensive man is not threatened by another man's success, but inspired by it. Seems so common sense, and yet look at what drives our world right now. The masculine male views women as subservient and sex objects. The comprehensive man respects women and values their superior qualities. The masculine male feels fear but will do anything to prevent anyone from knowing he is scared. The comprehensive man feels fear but openly admits it and thereby makes wise life decisions. It's a real liberator to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm nervous right now. I'm scared about this thing. I know I went through that with like new guys and going into combat. And you could see them, bro. They're scared. Because you might die.
Yeah, I mean,
and you don't want to let your friends down. And you don't want to see your friends get wounded or killed. And you've never done it before. And so you see, a guy goes to the bathroom 4 times in 20 minutes. You're like, oh, he's scared. His stomach is turning. And so you go say, hey, man, I just saw you go to the bathroom 4 times in 20 minutes. You scared? No, I'm not scared. Hey, bro, you're scared. It's all good. I'm scared too. We're going to be all right. That's us getting focused right now. And as soon as they recognize that, it's like, oh, okay. Okay.
You liberated. I mean, just me hearing you say it, as much as I admire you, it's like, it's liberating, and if your team, that's what Joe speaks highly of, your leadership and being the example, a lot of these guys just talk it and it's not real life. And so to actually see it, someone you respect and he's still human, is like you give them the permission to be human. It's like, okay, but I'm not going to succumb to this. So that's the other side.
Yeah, we're going to get our gear on and we're going to go.
There you go. That's good, man. Wow.
The masculine male is a slave to his thoughts and emotions. The comprehensive man masters his emotions before his thoughts become toxic. And going on in the pages that follow, we will explore the 10 characteristics of the comprehensive man, covering each vital area of a man's life. I like to think of these characteristics as part of 3 general themes. The dynamic characteristics call you to take action. The deeper characteristics inspire you to look within. And the devotion characteristics focus on your closest relationships. And we're going to jump into some of these. You got the dynamic characteristics. You've mentioned some of these already. The fighter, the provider, the leader. Then you get the deeper characteristics, the lover, the nurturer, the gentleman, the friend, and then finally the devotion characteristics, the husband, the father, the son. And take a look at some of these things here. And I feel like you and I could talk for like weeks.
Man. Easy.
But that's why, hey, get the book, because you go into so much detail and it provides different perspectives and different angles of the issue. So for me, that's how you gain understanding of things. You want to learn an arm lock? Cool. Learn the arm lock from the mount. Learn the arm lock from a cross side. Learn the arm lock from the guard. Learn the arm lock from the back. Each one of those perspectives, you'll understand the arm lock better. And every one of your arm locks will become better than it was before. And that's what I feel like the book does, is gives different perspectives on these different characteristics. The first one you talk about here, the fighter. The fighter discerns when to engage and when to walk away. He masters his ego and emotions to ensure he stays in an advantageous position. Boy, is that smart.
Yeah. That was typically we would put quotes at the beginning of each chapter. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How about putting the definitions for each characteristic at the beginning? And at the end of the book, it becomes a man's creed when he says them all together.
Yep.
Yeah. So
this is interesting. he masters his ego and emotions to ensure he stays in an advantageous position. So you got this. You mentioned it earlier. I didn't cover it. You can get the book. So I can't. I'm not going to read the whole book. But you got this earthquake of emotions, and what you talk about here is anger. Right? Anger is kind of the one that bubbles over the surface. For the Hawaiians here, this is like the volcano, the magma, the magma coming out. Lava. Underneath, what's leading to the anger? The anger is just what you see, but underneath that is distrust, lust, anxiety, fear, loneliness, insecurity. And I kind of think that if you put ego underneath all those, like, what are we fearing? We're fearing that we're going to look bad. Why do we distrust? Because I don't want to be the guy that looks like I'm weak over here. Lust. What are we trying to prove? How much of that is just ego trying to prove something? Loneliness. I don't want to be alone. My ego doesn't want to be alone. Insecurity, clearly ego. So many of these things, and I know when it comes to like actually getting in fights with people, if you take away alcohol with ego, there'd be peace. Ego leads to so much.
It sure does.
I heard you talking on the Joe Rogan podcast about an incident where there was a road rage incident and both the guys had concealed carry and they killed each other.
It was in Michigan.
In front of their families.
Yeah, they were with their families and not one could disengage. They pull over, arguing, start shooting, kills each other. And I often ask men, I say, look, imagine yourself lying in your own blood while looking up at your family crying and you taking your last breath. Ask yourself, is it worth it or was it worth it? And it's not. I had to learn many times like, hey, my son is in the car. This is one I'm not going to do. It's not worth it. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's just not. I tell a story of a bus driver who nearly runs me and Nicole, my wife, off the road. And I pull up to the side, of course, to see, what's going on, And I see his body language, basically pointing at me. And I know he's using profanity. So I ignore it, keep going. Point to the ego. We're going to the same shopping mall. He follows us, parks the smart bus, and walks aggressively over to my wife and I. I'm armed, and I know once you cross 3 feet in my radius, it's a threat to me. Like I have to, I'm not fighting you. There's no jiu-jitsu. I'm killing you.
By the way, pause. Echo, you're about to hear just the very legit activities going on. Listen to this line because this is great in the book. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so he comes over to me and I tell him to stop right there. I said, because once you cross this, it's a problem. And he didn't know I was armed, but my wife is with me and he would have died that day. Because I'm not grappling with you and my wife is here, okay? And I'm armed. So anyway, what's interesting, to your point, Jocko, about the ego, I had to make sure that was in check. Because now I wanted to act like a human being. Because once I have to go to animal mode or lion mode, there is no more conversation. And this wasn't that type of aggression. For you to stop, and I tell you to stop, let me know where I was in this situation. And so we started communicating, and I allowed room for us to be men and humans, and we were able to work through this and shook hands and walked away. And the main thing was knowing that I'm still a man because I didn't try to just completely punk this man out. Because the old me it had to be unequivocally Jason was the dog in this situation. Mm-hmm. But long as Nicole was protected, I said, you know what? Now it's time for me to practice what I teach. And in that moment, long as I'm in control, no one's harmed, no one's in danger, let's communicate. One of my boxing coaches will always say, if we always have to go to fighting, we're no different from the animals. If we can't reason or talk through conflict, like when the last time you seen a movie with two, I guess, gangsters or not gangsters, just say two men who were in conflict, resolve it verbally. Mm-hmm. And so, again, it goes back to your point, which I love, again, how you put the uncle in your book. Mm-hmm. We need examples of it for our sons to see. And so I was in that moment, I didn't know what was going to happen. This guy was a big fella walking towards me, but to be able to end there with peace was worth it. No one injured. And again, people miss, you armed now, but if you kill someone, you got money to pay. You see, it's a lot more.
You're going to jail.
You're going to jail instantly.
Going to jail instantly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
that's
then,
like when you take the concealed carry course out here in California. It's, what is it, a 2-day course, Echo Charles?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
3.
So it's probably, I don't know, 20 hours or 21 hours, let's say. 18 of those hours are telling you all the trouble that you're going to get in if you use your weapon. Like, they're trying to let you know what's up. I've been looking for the line in the book because
which one?
What you actually said to that guy is like, you're entering my 3-foot arc zone of safety, and if you proceed further, it will result in
I did. It was very RoboCop.
It was like full RoboCop activities, and I was like, that's kind of like one of those things where, you know, when someone is just very cool, calm, and collective, and you go, oh, this guy knows. My friend Hoyler Gracie, he was surfing. You know, he's Hoyler Gracie.
Yes.
And some guy started talking smack to him, you know, out in the water. And Hoyler said, hey, man, I surf for fun. I fight for a living. If you want to go to the beach, let me know. The guy's like, I think I'm good.
Wow. Yeah, that's in the fighter chapter. That's it's actually, I think that's in the gentleman chapter after I talk about the alpha male.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in the gentleman chapter.
We'll find it.
Yeah,
we'll find it when we get there.
Is,
next section. Next characteristic, the provider. The provider ensures the provision of essential resources, guidance, and support for his family, friends, community, and himself. So that's what we're doing.
We miss the himself, though. A lot of us do as men. We don't provide for ourselves. And that's what makes it living miserable when seems like everyone is living off the fruit of our labor and we don't take care of ourselves. And what's deep, how many times have you heard wives encourage husbands to go on vacations or trips with their boys and we don't? You know, we think that we got to worry about terrorists breaking in the house. We got to hold down the fort. You know, it's like my wife, they have girls trips. She's literally like, look, I'll plan it. Don't worry about anything. Get 3 of your friends. Get out of here. And a recent study said that for our mental health, men need at least 2 hang nights a week because we don't do it. We're stuck in performance mode.
Unless we're training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's true. It's part of it.
100%.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the camaraderie as we talked about earlier. It's very important. Yeah. But even outside of jiu-jitsu, you still need that time.
The crazy thing is, especially if you train with Echo Charles, you're gonna get hang time. this guy over here, you get a solid hour of training. You get a solid hour. He's like a 1-to-1 ratio. He's wanting to tell you about all kinds of things going on, you know. But hey, I'm here for you, bro. I'm here for
each other.
I'm here for you. That's part of our thing.
But that's what I loved about the jiu-jitsu community. It was different from a lot of the arts I had trained in. The camaraderie was just, it's just
the intimacy of jiu-jitsu. Like, I can say this, you know how you just bro hug people?
Sure.
I did not do that until jiu-jitsu. It wasn't part of my thing. It was like, no, like, hey, dude, you keep your distance. It was kind of like, hey, you're entering my arc of, you know, safety if you get in here. But once you're training jiu-jitsu, 3-foot zone. You're out in my 3-foot zone. Do not proceed.
Oh my goodness,
that's real though.
Yeah, there's a lot of men like that, like that to this day.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Next one. And by the way, you have so much. Each one of these is a chapter. I'm kind of skimming through it here. Next one's the leader. The leader guides and inspires others. He knows when to speak and when to listen. Leading by example, not intimidation. One of the notes that you made in this section was, I think this is an important thing to talk about. You can't save everyone, and this is a heavy burden, especially like so. The first book I wrote is called Extreme Ownership, and that is a very heavy burden to bear. Right, when you're in a leadership position, you own everything, and so some people they'll interpret that as, you know, Echo Charles works for me. I'm responsible for his actions. I take ownership of everything he does. Totally true. So what do you do when Echo is not showing up to work? He's showing up to work late. He's not accomplishing his job. Well, you take ownership of that. Hey, Echo, did I make this clear to you? Hey, Echo, do you need more training? Hey, Echo, is everything going on okay at home? Like, is there anything else you need from me? Do you need more resources so you can get the job? All those things. But eventually, you can have someone that does not belong in that position. You can have someone that you can't save them. And then the priority of the team takes precedence over the priority of one individual. Because now I'm dedicating all my time and effort and focus on Echo, and I'm not paying attention to the rest of the team. And by the way, he's letting the whole team down, and now we're not getting the jobs that we were trying to get. You know, we were putting bids in on jobs, but it was costing us a little bit more. We were performing late. They get bad Yelp review because Echo didn't. See what I'm saying? So you can't save everyone. Same thing, you know, when you're interacting with other people. And I know in your position, you know, you've got story upon story of people that couldn't save.
Yeah, and like especially with the students that come and you don't reach them all, and I would stay up late and overextending myself, going over the house and trying to help the parent resolve an issue with their son. And I learned, I was reading the scriptures when Yeshua or Jesus was, Mary poured the oil on his head and the disciples were upset because they could have sold it. It was expensive to feed those in need. And Yeshua, he said that the poor will always be with you, but I will not. So Mary was there in the moment. She knew what she was doing. But the disciples weren't. They were thinking about the cost. What I learned and took from that teaching as well is that there will always be boys in need. There will be. But am I in the moment? Am I teaching to those he wants me to teach in that moment? Because some will leave. Just like if I'm a shepherd, I will leave the 99 to go after the one, but I can't neglect the 99. And as a youth worker or a minister or a leader, and you really care and you're working with the kids, sometimes you'll think it's your fault that they made that mistake. That liberated me. Like, no, I gave you everything you needed. You made that mistake, but I'll still be here for you. And so now I can go to bed when I need to go to bed. I tell them, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to give you everything you want. I actually do an analogy where I take an empty glass and I grab a pitcher of water for every new group that starts. I say, this glass represents you. This pitcher and its contents, the pitcher represents me, and the contents, this water represents the love, the discipline, the sacrifice, my commitment, and other qualities that I'm going to pour into you. So then I start filling the cup up all the way to the brim right when it's about to spill over. And I put the pitcher down and I ask the class, what has to happen now for me to pour more water into this glass? And they looked, they said, well, we have to drink it. I said, exactly. What I used to do, I would keep pouring. And now all of my effort is wasted. Until you drink everything that I give you in here, I can't pour anymore. And if you leave with this full cup, that's on you. You can always come back, but I don't worry anymore. I pray for you, but there's another boy that just came in as you walked out. That's the importance of me being in the moment, because there will always be someone in need. I understand that now. It's not my job to save everyone, but save the ones that come and those that I can. I can lose myself and my family in the process of going after who he doesn't want me to go after.
Yeah, it's a perfect metaphor, and it's the same thing. You know, when I was just talking about Echo, I'm pouring water into Echo, give you more training, you know, sit down with you, give you counseling, mentor you. But eventually, if you're not drinking that water, I can't help you anymore.
You can't. Echo, well, no, not Echo, but the person that we're trying to metaphorical Echo. Sure. You know, he would cause more harm to the whole mission, you know, and so unfortunately you have to learn to allow people to leave, you know, and develop and trust that what you've poured into them will come, you know, full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Getting into part 2 here, the deeper characteristics. And this one starts off with the lover. Echo, Charles.
Yes, sir.
Just checking. Just making sure you're with me.
I'm with you.
The lover knows that love is demonstrated through action, devotion to Yah, loving his neighbors, and maintaining his own well-being. And this was to highlight one section of this. You talk about or on the last podcast, you mentioned that you don't talk about self-love, you talk about maintenance, which is, a more approved
term we can use as men.
Approved manly term we got going on there. So you talk about that in here.
Yes.
Preserve energy and time. Declining allows you to channel your resources into activities that truly matter. Gain respect for boundaries. Saying no establishes healthy boundaries and garners respect from others. So there's a movie right now. I haven't seen it yet. It's about Elvis Presley. Have you seen it? It's called Elvis. And my wife watched it, but she said it was heartbreaking because Elvis was Elvis and everyone was just taken from Elvis. They just took from him and took from him and took from him and took from him. And, they fed him the drugs that he needed to keep him going. They gave him the bad food. They kept him, sedated. They got him up on stage. They pushed him out on stage. They took. And it was just a terrible story. And that's, it's kind of like what you're talking. I mean, you could lose your family trying to help kids, trying to help other people. You have to set some boundaries. So
I didn't know that about him.
Yeah.
Seems like a common theme for celebrity singers and entertainers. Michael Jackson was similar.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, man. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think especially, these when you're a young artist and you get an opportunity and you sign that contract, especially in the old days, these people would sign contracts and they'd give away everything and they would get nothing in return. Well, they'd think they'd be getting something in return, but they would get totally worked over.
They would get the fame, but not the fortune.
Yep. Enhance well-being. Avoiding situations that generate stress or discomfort nurtures your mental and emotional well-being. Your choice not to attend to matters because your decision directly impacts your own experience.
Yeah, a lot of people I was talking to, how do you turn it down? Like when you get the money, you get the success, and people invite you to come to an event, and they try to make you feel guilty for not attending. I'm like, well, if your event isn't a success because I'm not there, maybe you don't need to have the event. I'm serious. It's like, I'm tired. I need to be with my family. I need to recover. And I don't see my name on the flyer. So I have no guilt anymore in telling people I can't go. And then people who are demanding, like, well, I need an answer now. Well, my wife would tell you that's going to be no. Because if you're rushing me, it's best to say no, because I say yes, I'm going to commit to it. I say, oh, no, you need to answer now. Oh, it's no. Because I've had time to really process it and make sure it's a good decision for me. And it's like, I'm over it, man. It's like you're not pressing me into anything anymore. I had a saying, don't get caught up in everyone's calling because you could miss your calling from him, and it's like when you're popular, you seem like you have the antidote to so much, you're good. It's like a natural resource until they wear you out. Then they go on to the next and to the next. I'm okay, man. I work my way out, from my home. I don't need the accolades from people and none of that. It means it's encouraging. But I know accolades are like the breeze. It's gonna go. It's just, it's just, it's
all glory is fleeting.
It is. But when your family who really love you and for who you really are, I work from that space. Like a woman couldn't. There's not one woman who could flirt with me and compliment me more than my wife has. So it means it literally is like, I see you coming from a mile away. I already heard this. I already felt this. My kids tell me how great you are, Dad. Get me a plaque, greatest dad. It's in my office. Like, that hangs up none of my awards. That's in my office to keep me locked in. And that's what matters, man. When we're old men, I tell all these men, like building all these buildings for corporations, when we're sitting on our front porch, 70, 80 years old, those buildings are going to forget us. Those people are going to forget us. Only thing going to be on our hearts and mind is my wife next to me and where are the kids?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else matters, man. It just doesn't. It's vain attempts for affirmation that many men seek because they didn't get it. Then when they get it, now they're stuck in a performance cycle and their lives are misery. And it's just not worth it. Just pull back. Like you say, reset.
Mm-hmm.
We see the problem. Let's reset. This isn't the life. This isn't the path. Acknowledge what's going on for real, what you didn't get, and let's do something about it. And that's why, your books on leadership is important because we think we know how to lead, but we don't. It's a lot of it is an intimidation. It is do what I say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real leadership is very counterintuitive. It's your instinct is, well, if I want my kid to do something, I just bark orders at him and they better do it. It's like, nope, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works with your kids. Not the way it works with your team, with work.
Was the
friends,
Ryan, the guy Ryan made, I told you was psychologist for the SEALs. He told me, and I never forgot this because Shalom has like high anxiety when my Kava poo from the last episode. He has high anxiety in the car on car rides,
Uh-huh.
And he said when he would train dogs, the thing they would teach is never let the stress go down the leash.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I said, and so it made me ponder, like, does Shalom feel any anxiety from in our home? When I'm in the car. Am I anxious now because he's going crazy, or am I staying still? So now, just recently, I stayed calm. I made him stay in his seat. I said, everything's cool. And it worked. And I know this because of what I do. But when you have a dog going crazy in your car, you lose it for that moment. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm the leader here. I got to set the tone. And as men, we want to be respected and treated as leaders. But then we miss the moment when it requires for us to really lead.
Yeah.
We start looking at what everyone else isn't doing instead of getting in the mirror and say, like you said, well, what am I doing? Am I giving you this? Do you have the right tools for this? As a father, am I patient? Did I really ask him? Did I offend him? Am I really present, son? Is there anything else dad could be doing more of that would make your life better? Those are things leaders do. And it requires for you to sit there, like you say, and listen, and don't judge your children. Like, what do you need? Dad, I would love for you to be more intentional. Put the phone down when you come home. I advise men, if you're feeling a disconnection, leave the phones at home and go for a walk. And they always come back like, wow, my relationship with my daughter or son is completely different now. Mm-hmm. Because in that moment, if you're Jocko, everyone knows you. You're literally telling your children, I stopped this world for you. And we're going to walk, and it's slow. We're not getting around this block anytime soon.
Nope.
And that means the world to the children, man. Yeah. And to the staff and to Echo when he's out
Echo
here.
Charles being late. Prioritize self-maintenance. Not now allows you to prioritize your needs, enabling you to recharge and show up more fully later in areas you select, including those connected to your family, job, and more. Promote authenticity. Embracing refusal fosters authenticity as you live in alignment with your purpose. Open opportunities. Saying no to the wrong opportunities creates space for the right ones. Strengthen confidence. Asserting your choices boosts your confidence and reaffirms your independence from the desires and urgencies of others. Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
Yeah.
What's that sign they hang up? Like your lack of planning doesn't mean my emergency.
Yeah, something like that.
Constitute an
Doesn't
emergency
constitute an emergency. Yeah, that's what it is.
Exactly.
The next one, the nurturer. The nurturer cultivates growth and development, caring for individuals and environments within their influence and beyond. How does this play a role?
Major, especially I use myself as an example. As far as nurturing with the boys that I work with, that also entails me nurturing their parents. Everyone that's involved in that child's life. I can't tell you how many mothers have cried literally in my arms for giving them the opportunity to just be mom. Because now I say, look, if the father isn't active in his life, let us be that. because he needs you to be mom. He needs the nurturing side. And that's where the disconnect comes with so many single mothers, is because they have to now become part of dad. The son doesn't need that from mom. Well, I can't say in those situations he does need it, but he desires the nurturing and the love of mom. Majority of fights happen not because kids talked about our dads.
No,
we said something
right.
about mom, right? Why? Not because mom was a disciplinarian. It's because mom was loving, caring, always gave me second and third chances. The other guy, that was dad, and so to liberate them to nurture mom and then also nurture dad along through the process. I've had so many beautiful moments where sons and fathers can reconcile. Literally fathers in different states. Because of the popularity of the Cave of Adullam and what I do, they come. Then I slowly reel them in and nurture them. I understand. Empathetic. What's your story? I never met a father who wasn't actively in his son's life or daughter's life that didn't love him. There was always a story. So to be a great coach, you got to be a great nurturer. The greatest coaches coach beyond the physical aspect of what you're doing. You get into their head, you get into their lives. Like Green Bay's legendary coach, Vince Lombardi. Mm-hmm. It was more than football. It was life. And that's what's missing from coaching. And I talk about comprehensive coaching.
Mm-hmm. I got it right here highlighted.
Yeah, you got to do more, especially now, because a lot of the athletes, their entire lives are visible now. And so now you're not only dealing with their parents and what they've been through, you're dealing with the social media aspect and the NIL and everything else. Like, how can you help this kid process these things? And lastly, when I'm speaking, was at Damian Lillard's camp, a Formula Zero, which was really cool. And to hear these young boys, he had the top 40 recruits in the country. And to hear them express this pressure of having to put on or put up for mom, basically make to the NBA so the family be taken care of. I help them by nurturing them through that moment. Like, look, I understand the pressure, but I need you to be, again, to our point in the previous podcast, I need you to be 16-year-old Tommy, 17-year-old Tommy, 13-year-old Tommy. You're not supposed to provide for them. They're supposed to provide for you. And I asked them, I said, do you think you were created to play basketball? And they'll look at me, they were like, no one's ever asked me that. So where is this pressure coming from? You can't do this forever. You're created to do more than that. That comes from a nurturing spirit, to be present and caring. Doesn't mean I'm coddling them or won't push them. That's nurturing as well. Mm-hmm. I love you so much that I'm going to sacrifice my body, which is I'm in great pain, to make sure you get this lesson today. I have had my kids, I can't hit my students. Y'all can hit me because I need you to feel what it feels like to be powerful, to get past your fears. As the scripture says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. So I'm your friend. I love you. I'll take yours though for you. That's nurturing as well. And so when we get past that nurturing is exclusive to women and really look at what it is, it's a great quality that makes us great leaders. And if more leaders, world leaders especially, led even from the principles of your book, this world would be better. If leaders could show some empathy and says, you know what, I'm not going to bomb that city. I need to meet with the leader again because there's so many people's lives at risk because of this decision. It's rooted in wanting to make sure I'm seen a certain way, that I'm not taken advantage of. So again, nurturing looks different from men. And that's why I say this world is in dire need of a nurturing love from a man, because it's different from a woman. It's strong, but yet it's gentle. It's safe. There's peace there. And that's why I really stress the point of men being nurturers and not being milksop.
Yeah.
Okay. But being a nurturer.
That's an interesting thing that I would try and explain to young leaders in the military. So when you join the military in a leadership role, they tell you, take care of your people, 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 take care of your people. It's beat into your head. But people misconstrue what that means. And it's the same, thing that you're talking about. Taking care of your people doesn't mean coddling them. It doesn't mean what you call it, a milk. What you call it?
Milk sop.
A milk sop.
It's like you soak bread in and it's just like you take it's soft.
That is not good. That is not taking care of your people.
No, it's not.
Taking care of your people is pushing them. Mm-hmm. It is making sure that they have discipline. Mm-hmm. It is making sure that they're well trained. It is make sure that they are not in their comfort zone. That is a form, if not the form, of nurturing.
It's also what you did for the young man who was scared, kept using the restroom.
Yeah.
You went where he was. Says, look, we're all scared right now. That's nurturing. You helping to develop him to get past that moment.
And that's what's wild. As I was thinking about your the idea of scaling the cave, trying to get other people to understand how to read a young kid that's going through, because I work with leaders, and I go to work with a construction company, I go to work with a finance company, I go to work with an insurance company, I go to work with a manufacturing company. The leaders, the questions that I'm going to get asked, they all have the same roots. So I'm assuming that in your role, when you see a kid start to cry, you're like, oh, it's going to be one of these three things. I mean, you're not being a jerk. You're not listening to them, but you're like, okay, this kid's he's mentioned that. It's going to go here. And you learn how to interact with people in a certain way. You can pull the string. You can get to the root of the problem, and you have a solution there. Like you tell me a problem, you got a problem with one of your employees, or you got a problem with your boss. I can start pulling the thread, and it's almost like, you remember those choose your own adventure books? There was books. It was if you want to go left, go to page 20. If you want to go right, go to page 19.
Yes.
So I feel like when I'm talking to someone that's in a leadership position, I'm basically just pulling the thread, and I'm going to, is it left or right? Oh, it's right. Okay. You have an employee that has a bad attitude. How long has he been with you? A year. Okay, cool. So you don't know him that well, but what's your relationship like? Do you know him well or not really? Not really. Okay, so you don't spend money. And I can kind of just narrow it down and eventually go, hey, you know what you need to do is build a relationship with that person, give them some more responsibility so they feel like they're more valuable. And they go, okay, I'll give that a try. And it works. So I'm sure that you have that as well.
Yes.
With these kids. That's going to be a hard thing to scale, but I do believe that it is scalable. I do believe that you can train people where they can identify problems and they can move through, and they'll be able to help these kids out.
Yes, I do. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book as well, because that would be the trainer manual as well. So if you can navigate through all 10 of those, you understand pretty much all that a young boy is going to deal with.
And you got to go do it.
You got to do it yourself.
Do it because
but that's I have things in place where I can test teachers with kids and see how you respond. And I need a kid. Hey, David, I gave you $150 to not listen to this instructor today. I want to see how he responds.
We do a lot of that too. We do a lot of role playing.
Yes, sir.
It's like, I trust me, I can be the most combative employee you've ever met. You're like, and I'm good. Like you got all your little leadership solutions. I got answers for all those that are going to make things worse.
That's excellent. Yeah.
But so that you mentioned the 5 C's of comprehensive coaching, just great stuff. Constructive approach, character development, cognitive performance, compassionate communications, Christ-centered. These are just solid things that I think will really help people out as they try and move through this. Moving to the next one, the gentleman. The gentleman exudes respect for others and himself through deliberate and appropriate etiquette without compromising his values. And this idea of etiquette goes back to something we talked about on the last podcast, which is protocols. Like there is a protocol that people don't learn for this interaction with a person that you've just met for the first time. This interaction as you go into an office and you're wanting help. This protocol when you sit down in the book, you lay out etiquette at dinner.
Yes.
Those are the kind of things that we don't have protocols for, and it's not good.
It's not good. The reason I had experience with my dad. He would pick me up on Mondays. That was his court-appointed day for us to spend time together. Make a long story short, we went to my favorite restaurant at the time, Red Lobster, and I had no idea when we were eating that I wasn't practicing good dining etiquette. He never had taught me. So he drops me off at my mother's house, and I'm thinking everything was good. Then about maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, I hear my mother yelling and arguing with someone. I go in her room. I say, "Hey, Mom, what's going on?" She said, "That was your dad. He was upset at me for not teaching you how to eat at the table." So as a young boy, that hurt me because I'm in the car with you. You didn't say a word. Mm-hmm. I'm at dinner with you. You didn't teach me. But yet you condemn me to my mother, who you thought she should teach your son how to eat correctly at the table. And so that wound, once I was able to heal it, I said, I'm going to create a training for young men that they'll never have to go through that. And dining etiquette is so important. Jocko, I can't tell you how many jobs I got when I was in construction, just how I presented myself at the business dinner or at breakfast. One job I got is funny. I'm with a contractor and I had my portfolio. We didn't have iPhones back then. We had literally pictures with us. And I forgot I hadn't washed my hands. My food, it came, I already cut my pancakes. I said, "Excuse me, I need to go wash my hands." So I go to the restroom, wash my hands, come back, and I'm going to show my portfolio. And he says, "No, I don't need to see your work. You got the job." I'm like, how do you give me the job and you haven't seen my work? And he points to my pancakes. He says, "Anyone who cuts their pancakes like this can cut my towel." And when I looked down, they were symmetrically cut, like a pie chart, literally. And I had no idea the practice that became a part of who I was. And I have young kids who go off to college. They would get scholarships solely off how they conducted themselves at the dining table. And they would text me, "Mr. Wilson, it works. I just got a $5,000 scholarship or $10,000 scholarship." Because that's where a lot of business is done. How many our sons, when they want to go on their first date or finally maybe take the woman out of their dreams, and one of the greatest intimidations for a lot of men is, what do I do with the silverware? How do I enter the table, exit the table? Which fork is for what? I mean, it's a lot there, but I love teaching it from a combat perspective as well. So when we teach them how to hold the knife and the fork, we actually use it like it's training. And so the kids love it, and they learn how to balance the knife and the fork here, put your index finger at the neck of the fork. And when they cut on the test, we have tough pita bread, and they can't scratch the plate. So I'm teaching them.
What is it, like a paper plate? Or you just mean audio-wise?
Yeah, audio-wise. I don't want to hear any scraping of the plate. Once you cut, take your time to cut enough and use that fork to control that piece of pita bread, and then you got to cut it into 4 pieces. So now if you have a steak, I don't have to worry about you butchering it at the table. You know how to use your utensils and how to eat correctly. And, the napkin placement, how do you fold it, or do you just throw it up there when you have to go use the restroom? And the confidence these young boys get, and then the fathers who are looking like, hey, I need to do some of this training as well. And it's more than just about the dining experience. It's about the social gathering as well, because a lot of our children are disconnected. They don't know how to communicate because they use their phones. And so with our dining etiquette trainings, they can't have their phones at the table. And they're graded upon conversation as well. Like, can you make a conversation entertaining or engaging? And it's really a beautiful thing to see when kids get the epiphany, like, I don't need my phone to communicate, because this is what real life is, depends on what circles you're in. And so that's the gentleman, especially the chivalry piece, is very important to teach our boys how to be respectful and kind, not just to women, but elderly people as well. For me, I have a affinity for the elderly care because of me caring for my mother. But, I think every man, if you're strong, you should be the protector of those who are weak. And same thing with women. You're not pandering to them. It's a code of honor. Literally, chivalry was a code of honor for medieval knights. Like, how did we let that go? To your point in the last podcast.
Yeah. In this book, The Way of the Warrior Kid, at one point the uncle says, if you want to be a warrior, you got to go and research what being a warrior actually is. And so he goes and researches in the library, and he gets the the Navy SEAL code, the Ranger creed, he gets the Bushido code, or the 7 Bushido characteristics, and he has the Viking code in there, and he's got the chivalry, the code of chivalry in there.
Excellent.
All those different things, and then he assembles his own code. And this is another thing that's in the book is he doesn't get issued a code from his uncle. His uncle doesn't say, you're a warrior kid, this is how a warrior kid behaves. He takes all those ideas and he applies them into his life, and then he comes up with his own warrior kid code. This is how I'm going to live. You know what's, so back to the book a little bit, as I was reading this section, right, it's talking about, dressing nice and tucking your shirt in and all this stuff. And I'm super laid back. Like you can see me talking about shorts and flip flop. That's what I wear. T-shirt, short, flip flop. That's kind of my thing. And I was kind of like, I can't really relate to that. And then it's so crazy because I am so particular about, I have a consulting company, Ashton Front. This is the uniform. Like, this is what you're going to wear. We all wear it. You shave, you have a haircut, you have, the pants, the belt, the polo shirt, the black t-shirt, like it's all a thing. And what's funny is in the military, I was very strict about how my guys looked, making sure that they were wearing the proper uniforms, making sure that they were wearing uniform things. And then there's this old saying, and I realized that, you get a lot of your DNA when you're in your first SEAL platoon. And you get a lot of your DNA from like hearing from the older guys in the SEAL platoons. Well, when I was a young SEAL, one of the mantras back then was avoid wearing a uniform at all costs. I mean, avoid wearing your full Navy uniform at all costs. But if you have to wear it, look perfect. And that is exactly, I want to wear a t-shirt and surf shorts and sandals. Yeah. But when it's time to go to work, I'm gonna look as squared away as I possibly can.
And that's what my mentor I talked about in that chapter. He was wise. He says, "Why isn't your shirt tucked in?" And I'm like, well, I don't need to wear my shirt tucked in. I'm just chilling. I'm just going to. And he just looked at me and continued to write. And he's a multimillionaire, very successful. Yeah. And when I went to go for this estimate,
note to self.
Exactly. I said, I'm gonna tuck my shirt in. I'm going to tuck my shirt in this time. I got a contract I had never gotten in that area in Michigan. And the guy said it was my presentation. My hat was embroidered. My logo was embroidered. Shirt tucked in. I didn't have my work boots on for estimates. I had 2 sets of boots, one for work and one for estimates. Had a tape measure for work, tape measure for estimates. When I'm in these multi-million-dollar homes, you don't want thin set falling off while you're measuring the kitchen countertops. So I learned, this is skill. And even one of my mentors, when it took me a little bit longer to get into what this is really about, he knew I love martial arts. He says, I'm going to tell you this. He says, you're wearing the wrong armor to the fight. He says, you're the circles you're in now. You need to look a certain way for right now. And then you get to the level of Steve Jobs, you can wear a T-shirt and Levi's and
you can go back again.
Yeah. He said, but until you get there, wear the right armor for the fight. And it was a major difference in all of my networking and business dealings. It changed a lot. And I tell the young boys, they wear their do-rags in public. And I say, well, what's the original intent of this do-rag? Where is it meant to be worn? They said home, sharaf. They call me that instead of sensei. Sharaf in Hebrew means servant. I said, well, why do you have it on in here? And even with my son with the dishwasher, that's his thing there. He doesn't wash dishes. He just throws them in the dishwasher. And then I'm looking for utensils or dishes. Where's everything? They're in the dishwasher. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Do you live in a bathtub? He says, of course not. I say, the dishwasher is not the proper place to store the dishes. This equipment is meant to wash everything. When it's done, you take everything out and put it where it belongs in the cabinets. I'm a trip at home, so that's why we could talk forever, because I see we're alike. But it's I'm not wrong. That's the inventor of this did not make this dishwasher for dishes to be stored. So let's use it for what it's for. And so it's funny when you talk to kids in a way that's respectful, and then encourage them to really think a little deeper. they change, and so that's what's really cool. And especially like flip-flops, like we went to, Andy Frisella, right?
Yeah.
So that's my guy. So he sponsored the Cave to come out to First Form. I said on the note for the parents, no slides, flip-flops, none of that. You can't wear any of that. Why? I said, well, first and foremost, from a combat perspective, I would love for you to have on some slides trying to fight me. Okay. Secondly, you're not lounging where we're going. And so Andy and his team at First Form, they did an amazing job with us, showing them the business side of how things are done. And when they were finished, they were like, wow, so you do have us put the chair under the table for a reason. Like, that's where it belongs. Did you see anything out of order in First Form? The dumbbells, even the way they're turned, everything is lined up perfectly. There's nothing wrong with that. It depends on where and who you want to be around in life. Yeah, and so it's a certain criteria. I mean, you come to our building, it's spotless. Our kids like, no, this is how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be dirty. My car is clean. My kids will say, Mr. Wilson, whenever your car is ever dirty, I said, when should it be dirty? You saying it like I'm wrong for keeping it clean. My car should stay clean if I can help it. And so those are principles we're teaching. You see a mark on the wall, wipe it off. It doesn't belong there. Or the kids, all our kids do all the janitorial work of the building. We pay them instead of outsourcing it to a janitorial company. Awesome. It's one wall in our cold plunge room. For some reason, they keep hitting my wall with the tools. And I said, you know what? This is the last time. I said, because this isn't making sense. All of you are teenagers. You're not paying attention. I said, I'm not going to paint this wall dark so that you can continue to doing something not the correct way. I said, so the next time I have to patch this wall and paint it, it's coming out of your check. I said, because there's no reason for you to keep nicking my wall up. The principle is what? Attention to detail. Stay focused. What is causing you to hit my wall? Are you rushing? You shouldn't be rushing because we have enough time allotted for everything to be done in excellence. And so they're missing the Jockos of the world, the Echoes, myself, in the everyday environment. When they don't see it, they can't be it. And then you wonder why communities look the way they do, because it's an absence of us and or men who could be on that level. They just need the nurturing or the coaching. And then they got to have the application to do it. But yeah, man, it's all about, I'm just like you, man. Like everything, I mean, on the table, everything is lined up. If you meet my wife, she'll tell you like, oh, he next level. So your car, clean, everything, my home. When you walk in and we had a guy come out because we saw some bugs come in. He looked on the floor. He was like, well, it's definitely not from your house not being clean. He said, it's the cleanest house I've ever been to in my life. Like, who cleans it? I said, I do. It's a principle. I like my home in order, and when you show boys that way without condemning them, and they take to it. My son, my daughter does it now. They were fighting it their whole childhood, but it's worth it, man. It's worth modeling it and seeing the results even better, man.
What'd you do when your daughter had the dirty room?
That's when I didn't understand. I was just a masculine male. I thought it was disrespectful. I would yell, why can't you do what I need to be done? I'm always the one got to clean up around here. And I completely missed all that she was going through in middle school. And I remember one time when I knew something was wrong, I went to help her with running track, so I surprised her at the school, and I'm just trying to help, teach the kids how to run. She comes in a circle with all her friends and me and yells, why are you here? You shouldn't even be here. And that crushed me. And so I was in her space, you see, but I hadn't developed, to your point, the relationship. I wanted it, but I overstepped my bounds because she looked at that action of love as me being protective dad. Trying to make sure everything is correct. What was deep, Jocko, when she came, I had to go back into school because she had forgot something. She had already been in the car with Nicole. I get back in the car. I said, I found it. Everything is good. And when I turned back around, I hear her burst out into tears. And she just started crying. She says, Daddy, I'm so sorry. I was so mean to you earlier. And I couldn't meet the moment. I didn't know what to say because I wasn't tapped into my emotions. I wasn't emotionally intelligent. I said, it's okay, baby, I understand. But I should have dug deeper then. Like, what triggered that? What did Dad do to trigger that response? I don't blame you for that. That came from somewhere. And I missed that. And that's what I give men in this book. It's like, you have it. You just got to tap in. Tap into your humanity, what you feel. Stop fearing that. Your kids need all of you, not just a protector and provider. So now that I'm able to give my daughter that, I mean, she's 29 now. I wish I could go back, but I can't, so I don't linger there. I just make the most of where I am now. I want to be more present with my son. I know I could even do even more. Like, what does that take? Can you give me my report card today? Where's Dad at on intentionality? Where's Dad at with patience? Where's Dad at with understanding and seeking you out? You know, where am I at? You know, and that's what's really important, man, right now. And so many men, they want it, but because of the way we were raised, they fear being that way. Like it's somehow will make them vulnerable, susceptible to harm or being mistreated or impassively dismissed. And so the comprehensive man, he's courageous, but also compassionate, strong, but sensitive. He lives from the good in his heart instead of the fear of how he'll be perceived. He's authentically human. And that's what I want for men. You know, stay strong, but when a moment requires you to be sensitive, be sensitive.
Echo Charles.
Yes.
Your daughter's room is not clean. What's your protocol?
I asked her to clean the room.
She's doesn't clean it.
Discipline or freedom, like the shirt said. Discipline equals freedom. Yeah.
Okay, she cleans it, but then the next day, 2 days later, it's dirty again.
Yeah, clean your room again. Well, are you asking me hypothetical? Like, I don't know. Like in real life?
In real life, yeah.
Like, we say clean the room. I say clean the room. She cleans the room.
And then, but like a couple days later, it's dirty again. You say clean it again.
Yeah.
What about now?
The room cleaning thing is not an issue, I don't think.
She keeps it clean
in the house. So no, not constant clean, but yeah, if she'll mess it up for sure, 100%.
But even your response now after this conversation, and it's dirty, say back to back, you know, in 1 week, you still just say clean your room?
Well, I think there's a bigger picture here, especially if we're drawing comparisons. So I'm not as squared away as you are, so I allow a lot more slack with the room cleaning scenario. But yes, like if one day, let's say I see nothing's really going on right now, and we'll say, and then I see the room messy, and then I'll be like, okay, we got to clean the room. She got to clean the room. She cleans the room. So I don't think ever in her 11 and a half years she's ever been like no, or I will and then not, you know, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
She's always cleaned the room, but then let's say, I don't know what, like every day it's back dirty all the time or whatever. Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened. Even if it did, I don't think I'd make I would make a big deal.
But not even making a big deal, but ask her why. You know what I mean? Like literally sit in the room and say, hey, baby, you know, Mom and Dad expects the room to be clean, but we're noticing that it's becoming dirty more frequently. Like, is anything going on personally? And she may not share. I'm just saying that, you know, there's a cause and effect for every behavior. And of course, you know, no parent should be like I was, as dogmatic about keeping a room clean. Let's make that unequivocally clear. I'm saying let's not miss the signs that are there. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying a dirty room always equates to something going on in her life that's stressful. But for her not to hear, you know, a request of a parent, you know, like my son's room stays clean a lot, doesn't mean that he's impervious to drama at school or stress. Like a clean room doesn't equate to your kid. It's all good. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, are you willing to dive a little deeper, like emotionally?
I'm willing and do dive very deeply emotionally with both my kids for various reasons. I think you're right though. But when I say different comparisons have to be drawn or whatever, since I'm not as squared away, or let's say it's not as high on the priority list as far as like, hey, room needs to be clean. Like the default should be clean, right? That's kind of, I'm like, it can look, if it's freaking super spick and span, hey, big up to you for doing it. If it's not, it's not going to move me either way. If it's chronically dirty or unsanitary or something like this, then okay, I'm going to say something about it. And then I'm going to gauge what's her reaction. You see what I'm saying? And her reaction typically, or 100% of the time, is positive. Like, she's never talked back. She's never whatever. She's a very nice girl, you know. Man. But yeah, I think it does start with me as you know, one of the many lessons we've learned today. It starts with me and kind of my, for lack of a better term, standard, you know, for as far as just cleanliness in general, and it applies to other things.
You know, was deep. I shared transparently where mine came from. This desire for everything in order was my dad. You know, he yelled at me, cursed at me because I had a hairbrush on the kitchen table. I didn't know it was unsanitary. Instead of teaching me why, he just yelled at me. And as a result, that room turned into, this means you don't respect me. But my daughter's room would be cluttered, closet packed with clothes. And understanding psychology now, there's a direct correlation to a lot of that. It is. And so a lot of times we miss that as parents because we're busy. We have a lot going on. But nothing's more important than that. And that's why I always go back to, Jason, what can you live with? Could you live with being a successful author but a failure as a dad? No. I'd rather be a failure as an author and successful as a dad.
100%.
And so that's cool, man. You're locked in with your daughters. And how old are you now?
47.
47, yeah. And, you know, how old are your children? You said 7?
My son is
11, right?
8, and yeah, my
11.
daughter's
Okay,
11.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah. If I could go back, that would be my thing. I would sit in a dirty room with her and talk. You know, like what's going on, and that's what I missed. Yeah, man. Yeah.
This is one of the many, 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 many things that will come up with the children. But it's such a common one, right?
Yeah.
But and then you gotta, you know, for me it was always like, for me now, how do I prioritize the relationship, right? And hey, your room is messy. How much leadership capital am I willing to expend? Because you know what? If your room is messy, I'll shut the door. My house isn't messy. My house is clean. Now, if you have plates and ants in there,
yes, a different story.
Then I will take the plates and I will put them on your bed, face down, right? Possibly. No, but I wouldn't really do that. I've done that a couple times.
Yeah,
not regularly.
Not the normal protocol.
But for me, it's like, I want to give my kids as much freedom as I can. And I want to treat them in a way where they are responsible for what's going on in their world. Case in point, if you got a bunch of clothes on your floor, I know those clothes didn't make it into the hamper and I know they're not getting washed. So you're going to run out of laundry. So eventually that kid, whether they're 8, 10, 12, they go, oh, if I want to have clean clothes, I need to move the clothes from the floor to the hamper to the laundry. Otherwise, they're not getting cleaned. Now, I will say this little disconnect. My wife will go in there, pick up the clothes, put them in the, clean them, fold them up, put them back. Right.
This is why we get along so much. My wife, if my son doesn't bring a lunch to school, little Jay doesn't have lunch at school. I'm like, can he learn today?
He's not
going to die.
I promise you he's not going to starve to death.
Yeah.
My wife would be scolding my son about not cleaning the dishes while she's literally cleaning the dishes that he didn't clean. And I'd say, darling, it's funny. My wife would go on a trip somewhere. My wife, you know, she cooking dinner, making lunches, cleaning, everything, just awesome. When she goes away, I didn't do any of that stuff. Kids did. The kids will do everything. Like they'll make the dinner, they do everything. The laundry, sweep, clean, everything's like that. But you just have to like give them that void where they can make that stuff happen. So yeah, I would say parenting, it's like, you know, look, if your kids room is unsanitary,
yeah, for sure,
or if it's a danger to firefighters that might have to come in there, like that you can brief your kids on. They can understand why. Hey, it's just not me because I'm a weird OCD neat freak.
Yeah.
No, hey, if firefighters got to come in here and they're tripping over stuff and there's fire, like that's going to be terrible. You can't have stuff on your floor. Like you can't have stuff on your floor. Boom, you know, you can kind of explain that. They can understand the why. But if all you do is, you know, impose your standard of the way you want things, that takes a little bit of it's not respecting them. It's not allowing them to influence you, and it can disrupt the relationship a little bit if you go too far with it.
Yes, for sure.
Now, if they go too far with it, and now they're not respecting your house, and there's ants on the floor and that, then we can have a conversation about it. The 6th rule of the warrior kid. The warrior kid keeps things neat and is always prepared and ready for action.
That's good.
Gotta have that neat room.
That's good.
And this is like from the SEAL teams. Like, you keep your gear squared away.
Yes.
You keep your gear squared away.
For sure.
That's the way it is. And to me, that's like, oh yeah. I kind of my minimum standard, I call it functional cleanliness.
That's good.
Functional cleanliness.
Yes, there you go.
If you go to my garage gym right now that I have,
yes,
there's chalk on the floor. It's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
Isn't, but it's there. I used that gym this morning, and I used chalk, and I'm going to use it tomorrow morning and the morning after that. So it's functionally clean. If I go in there and like my kids were in there working out, and all of a sudden there's crap everywhere, now it's not functionally clean. I can't use it.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I draw the line with cleanliness.
Good.
Stuff on the floor, I can't walk through your room.
That's
not functional.
Problem. Yeah,
it's not functional. That's
good.
So functional cleanliness is my minimum standard.
I'm gonna take that. Yeah,
now, when you get into a professional environment like the Cave, that is a professional learning environment, and it is an example to everyone that walks in that building. There is only one standard for that, and that is the standard of excellence.
Yes, sir.
If you walked into, a military building that represents there's something called the quarterdeck of a Navy building. The quarterdeck comes from a ship, but there's one in a building as well, and it's where you enter the ship. Well, it's where you enter the building as well. When you go into a Navy quarterdeck, like the quarterdeck of SEAL Team 1, that thing better be spotless. It better be outstanding, because that's representing the team. So the only standard is excellence.
Absolutely.
That's why when you're having guests to your house, it's like the standard is raised. So when we're having, when my mother-in-law is coming over from England, now the standard, I tell my kids, hey, your grandma's coming. You can't have dish by the bed. If it's just me, dish by the bed for one day, no big deal. Slack. Grandma's coming, no slack. Clean it up. It's kind of where we're at.
So technically, your functional cleanliness is, because technically, even if you're going business environment, the Cave, and you want sheer excellence, technically that is functional cleanliness.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Because, and you really want to go big picture. Let's say Jason Wilson, more squared away, a lot more clean, we'll say, than, let's say, the average person. If you're trying to maintain a culture of a certain level of cleanliness, that's functional.
Yes.
Just because, the standard can slide, but it's still functional.
It's very good. Yeah. Even now that you bring that up, Jock, I'm with my son. He has his desk in his room where he does his homework, and I let some things slide. I've learned a lot, since raising my daughter. Like the hoodies and be on his chair, I'm like, my man, that's supposed to be on the hanger in the closet. And I let it go, and but when it's chore day, Fridays, like, hey, let's lock in, but that's, I'm gonna use that functional cleanliness. Yeah. And in the Cave, we have the parents take pictures of their bedrooms, and they send them to us, and we have fun. It's fun in the Cave.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
We'll show the kids rooms, like, look at his room, and they're like, why is that out? And the point is, like, can we do better? And so now it becomes a fun game for them. Well, my next picture, my room's going to be tighter. And then those that do, they get these awards. They get these awards for that.
Awesome.
And it changes the culture of the kids. And the parents say, wow, like now that this is in order, I see it now in his homework. Yeah. It changes, because clutter does a lot to your mind as well.
See, that becomes something a little bit different. That becomes a corrective measure for life, right? Which I can't support that anymore. If you have somebody that they're living like a slob, they're not doing their standard protocols on a daily basis, and you can then imprint upon them, hey, you got to start your day off right. You got to make it like for me when I was in the SEAL teams, when I would never leave my desk. At the end of the day, I'd square my desk away. I wouldn't get out a pledge, spray it, and wipe it down. I wouldn't do that. Yeah. But there would be no junk sitting on it. There would be no stack of papers. It would be squared away. If someone walked in there, they'd go, oh, this is a squared away desk. Same thing at my house. It's like, oh, a couple days can go by and my desk can get some, like working on a book over here and I got some stuff and some mail came in. Yeah. But after a while, it's like, oh, no, this is not okay. So you got to square that away. But if you have someone that's whole life has been wild and we want to teach them how to control their life, control their emotions, control their behavior, well, we can teach them by teaching them to control their room. Teaching them to control their bed when they wake up in the morning. Those are things that you can do. That's what they do in the military. Look what they do in the military. They drop a quarter on your bed to see if the thing bounces, to see if you've got it tight enough. They're teaching you, here are the protocols to be disciplined with your room. Then it's going to go to the behavior. Then it's going to go to how you do your job. Then it becomes your emotions. Then it becomes how you function. So that's great stuff.
My friend Gabriel, again, was a Marine. He said the same thing. He never understood the cleanliness aspect of being a Marine. What does this have to do with battle? He says, you'll know when we get out there. Everything has to be in order. Yep. And I'm like, even with my son, it's like, now that I'm thinking about it, it is like he'll make his bed. It looks good on the top. I said, So I lift up the spread. The sheets, everything is out of order. He just, wanted to get by Dad. I said, this is a problem. You're creating a bad habit. And he says, how, Dad? I said, well, it's not done in excellence. So you have a book report due or something's due and you can just do the bare minimum. You're going to do that because you programmed yourself to live that way. I said, but I'm coming behind you. This is my opportunity. This is a perfect training ground for you, son, because you're still here. So now not only do you have to remake the bed, you're going to wash all of the linen because you haven't washed this in a while. I see the slop stains on the pillowcases because I don't have time to check behind them like that. I'm not that type of dad. And he appreciates it. It's like, man, I love you. This is love. Like, I wish my dad did this with me. Don't yell at me demonstrably and give me no reason for, your action. Tell me why and how this will hurt me long term. Son, do everything to your best ability. In building, if your sheets were the foundation and the cover was just the bricks, your house will fall because you didn't lay it solid. That's what I love about ceramic tile. You get a stress crack in the tile. You don't have to tell me too much. I know the foundation wasn't laid correctly. So we were all mud set our tile. We couldn't use cement board. So we would do it the old Italian way. We would pack our cement and screed it off, and the floor would be level in all four directions and have the metal lab underneath. I knew my floors, none of them cracked. Whenever I saw a stress crack in a tile, bad foundation. Someone didn't put in the work where it mattered the most, thought it could be hidden, get your money and leave. And so little Jay learned that, and it's like, I agree, Jocko, you can't let certain things slide. You don't want to be overbearing and, major in the minors. If functional cleanliness is the best. But even with that bed being made that way, I don't ever want to see it that way because now I'm allowing a spirit of laziness to set in. Because the only reason you didn't do it, either you didn't get up on time because the alarm, I heard you hit snooze 5 times. Okay, that already going to create more anxiety than you need in the morning. But also, let's stay to the principles. Is this how it's supposed to be done? It's not about being overbearing. Is this correct? If not, they're going to go in life and you wonder why the police giving you a call. He thought he could get away with it. She thought she could do this. No, here are the principles. They apply all throughout life. And I agree with you. It's like, give them room to make the mistake, but then correct it. And give them the right advice on how to move forward. And again, they don't come with manuals.
Yeah, you see, what bothers me about that story is the fact that he tried to get one over on you. You see what I'm saying?
He's good, man.
Because that's, for me, like, there was like line in the sand.
Yeah.
So, like, if you lie to me,
Oh yeah,
we got a problem.
Yes, major.
Like,
yeah.
We got a. No, you got a problem. It's because I'm very understanding, and if you strayed outside the bounds and you made a mistake, and you know I ask you about it and you tell me what happened, you know, here's most people are surprised about this, but like my kids, like I didn't have curfews for my kids. You come home, you know, going to a party, you know, you're in 10th grade, going to a party, cool, you know, have a good time. What time do I need to be home? Just, you know, don't do anything stupid. They come home at midnight. They come home at 10. They come home at 1. Like, okay. Now, because I trusted them, because I trusted that they were going to go out and they had good values to make good decisions, and were they perfect kids? Nope. Nope. You know, there was times where I had to be like, oh, that's too, you know, that's not okay. But when they told me the truth, it was like, I'll work with it. But I wanted them to have enough freedom that they knew that I trusted them. They knew that I respected what they were doing, and then put trust in them, which means they could trust me. And you know what that meant was they could talk to me. You know, my kids would tell me, oh, you know, this happened at school, or this kid's doing this something. So I felt like it worked out pretty good, like, you know, with the kids. But it's a balance, right? It's a balance. But then a couple red lines, you know, that you can't cross. Lying is one of them.
Me too. That's major. There was a saying when I grew up, if you lie, you will steal. And it seemed to be always true with a lot of my friends who would lie to their parents. And I would tell Jay, you know, you don't ever want to lose my trust. Because I give my life for you, that goes without saying, but anything my son needs, I make it happen. If I can make it happen, I'm going to get it for you if you're doing what you're supposed to do. And so those random checks, you know, for functional cleanliness is always good, even going underneath the bed like, my man, what is this? No wonder we missed this, because we used to wear the same like Nike socks. I stopped. I just bought me some straight black ones because I got tired of not having enough.
Not me. I brought gray ones. That's what I did. I brought gray ones because my son same thing. Like, once he was my size, everything was disappearing.
Yeah. I was like, no, my man. And so just like, is this supposed to be there? And I know, and it's no argument. That's what I love. It's like, you got me, Dad. That's all I can say. Like, okay, cool, let's do better. Let's not let this keep happening. Like laundry, when he's folding the clothes, like, my man, it don't take 3 hours. I said, I know what it is. It's your phone. I said, watch, I'm going to take this phone away. Let's see how fast you get done.
Boy, that phone is like a corrective measure you can use on kids now.
You know,
like you just said, it'd take you 3 hours to fold the clothes with your phone. If I take your phone, you're turning into a freaking master Chinese laundrette. You know, pop, pop. Stuff's just getting folded.
Our son told me and my wife Nicole, we were bragging to another couple, like, yeah, when we took Jay's phone, he's so much nicer and kind. We really think it's the social media pulling him away. He was like, nah, I just wanted my phone back. And I'm like, man, I'm thinking, you know, it was some science behind what we were doing. He was like, nah, I was just being nice.
I'm playing the game. Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Next section here, the friend. The friend loves at all times and is steadfast in the face of adversity, willing to lay down his life for his companions. It's seems so obvious, right? Seems so obvious, but boy, isn't it important to lay down a good foundation?
Absolutely.
So that people understand. You know, I had a friend call me up and he needs something, and you know, it was a little bit of a big ask. He called me up. He said, "Hey, it's like, here's the situation I'm in. I need this." And I was like, all right, friendship dues are up, I guess. I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't just talk this game. Like, you need something. He called me on it. Okay, we're doing this then.
Wow.
But it's so important for people to understand what that actually means.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, a friend is someone you can call, and they're going to answer the call, and they're going to step in, and we're going to get stuff done.
Absolutely. I told little Jay, he was disappointed by some kids at school when he was younger. And he said, they weren't a good friend. I said, well, really, son, there's no such thing as a good or bad friend. They're either a friend or they're not. I see. So when you remove that, you understand what a friend is now. And so that helped him a lot. Like, okay, they either a friend or not. This is not my friend. Yeah. And so, you don't need an adjective before the word friend. It's strong enough to stand on its own.
Check. Part 3, the devotion characteristics. First one, out of the gate, the husband. The husband emulates Christ's love by sacrificially giving of himself for his wife's well-being, treating her as he would like to be honored.
That's a big one.
Yeah, this is the one that you couldn't think of earlier for these little sayings. Happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
It's like, okay, we understand what that means, but there better be a little something more behind that.
Yeah, and it never was a term of endearment. You know, as men, we were taught to give that life to our wives so that we have some peace and they'd be quiet. That's what that came from. And so women are they getting up on game like, wait a minute, if you're not happy, I'm not happy either, you know. And COVID exposed a lot of it with the divorce rates. They thought everything was good because they got pretty much what they wanted, but their husbands never really dealt with the tough conversations because they weren't good verbal processors. And so,
when you say verbal processors, what do you mean by that?
Meaning someone that can articulate with their feelings with composure, not having to, for me, my thing was hitting the table. I'm sick of always boom, and I would do that instead of saying, well, no, Nicole, every time you question my leadership with finances, it actually hurts me, and it actually reminds me of a time when my father wouldn't trust me with such and such. And I would like for you to please trust me moving forward. And more so, what have I done to blow your trust? Instead of saying, why don't you submit to my leadership? Babe, why don't you trust me? Because that's the heart. That's where I'm speaking from. That's hurt, because it hurts me that you don't trust my leadership. What did I do? How can I improve? And when I communicate that way, my wife drops her guard because she's hearing my heart. And now she meets the moment and come right there with me. And so when you're a verbal processor, you can speak the true emotions behind what you feel or your thoughts without actually losing control of the moment. A lot of times, Nicole, she joked about, like, she could be wrong. And because I lack composure, now I have to apologize to her for the way I talked to her, and she was initially wrong. So now when I have to call her on something, and she does it too, I can see it. I'm like, I'm not losing this. Like, no, we're going to stay here. I'm going to stay at this level here. We're going to communicate. Like, no, you were wrong. Why did you say that? No, because that wasn't right. Why? No, let's stay here. No, let's stay here. No. Why did you do that? And keep it right there in eye-to-eye contact and communicate the heart of the matter. Now I'm not yelling or anything, and we're going to hold each other responsible for the way we're treating each other. And there is no outs. We're going to labor with each other and work with each other and communicate. Tell men, stop holding it in. Learn how to verbalize it. Because holding it in, it's like a champagne bottle. Life is going to shake you. Eventually it's going to pop. Then you wonder why you lost control with the simplest offense. Like, man, her saying that did not warrant that reaction. It's because you held it in. Learn how to communicate in a way where she can hear your heart and not be on defensive. You know, a lot of times we're yelling, our body language. A woman who's small in stature, she's going to back up. She's going to try to protect herself, guard herself. But when you communicate, just like you do a lot of times, I hear you and I'm locked in. But if you yelled at every time you talked, you wouldn't have no one would come. And so that's what a verbal processor is. He's verbalizing what he's processed. And a lot of times as men, we can't process because we suppress or repress what we're feeling. And that's been a game changer for me and my wife, is not sweeping things under the rug for the sake of peace, but truly having peace by bringing these issues to the forefront. You know, we have a saying, peace is not the absence of chaos, adversity, and trials. It's being in the midst of those things and still remaining calm at heart. And that's how I view it at home. If there's an issue, I'm not going to sweep it under the rug. It's going to be tough. Let's talk about this. But this conversation doesn't need to turn into an argument. And I'm not going to let it turn into that. Voices start raising like, hey, well, let's table this, but we still need to continue this conversation. And as men, we have a right to say, hey, nah, babe, they're so used to us coming to the bedroom because they can give us some. Like, no, that's not I'm sorry. I need to hear you say, I'm sorry, Jock, for hurting you. You know, my words weren't right, and I shouldn't have said that to you. Then after that, we can have sex, maybe, you know. But I want to make sure, you know, again, I've seen so many couples, you know, marriages fold because they don't face it head on, you know. And when you're successful, you have money and resources, you can hide a lot, you know. And Nicole and I have chosen to go the hard path and really work through this, the issues that happened before we met. And then those issues that created the issues when we met. Like, we're still working. Even today, everything's fine, but we're still working. Like, you responded that way. Where did that come from? And just sit with that for a moment. Well, Jason and I fear losing control because when I was 8, that's how my home felt for a moment. And so I actually keep a picture of her in my phone during that time in her life. So if we're ever at a place in a day where we're not getting along, I look at that picture to keep my heart tender towards her, because typically who you're arguing with isn't the grown woman in front of you, it's the child. Same thing with the husband. It's not the 40 or 50-year-old man, it's the 15-year-old boy who never was healed. That's why he's so reactionary. Like, how do we learn how to communicate that without feeling that our wives would use it against us and vice versa? Yeah.
I always want to let people know that when we talk about communication, when I talk about communication, and I'm talking about good communication, I'm actually talking about listening. And, you know, me, you know, there's a joke at Echelon Front where I work. I do this. I sit there and listen to someone, and I put my hand like this, like kind of like the thinking man. What's that statue, the thinking man? Yeah. But, you know, people notice that I do it, and I'm like, yeah, that's a way of letting me know that I need to keep my mouth shut and listen to what this other person's saying. And going a little bit further, my goal is, when you and I are having a discussion, is I want to try and figure out how you're right and I'm wrong. That's my actual goal. I'm like, okay, Jason and I, we're going into some business deal, and he wants to do it this way and I want to do it that way. And I sit down and cover up my mouth. I listen to what you have to say. And my goal is to figure out how you're right and I'm wrong. That's my goal.
Wow.
And it's very helpful tool for opening up my mind, you know, because otherwise it's like, you know, when I'm like, you know, Jason thinks he's got a good idea, but I know my idea is better. So, okay, how do you want to do it, Jason? And I'm just like you said something on the last podcast. Am I just listening to respond? Which is a totally different thing than listening to hear and listening to understand. So I know that the de-escalation, you know, the de-escalation fact, like I don't yell at my wife. My wife and I haven't yelled at each other. Maybe ever. She got a little hostile with me over Christmas. We were doing ice bath.
Yeah. Sure.
And so my whole family, this was last 2 Christmases ago, I think. And so my whole family it's in Montana, and it's like, it's in the snow, and there's ice, and we have to chop the ice thing. So my whole family were out there, we're having fun. And my son had heard Andrew Huberman talking about brown fat and how the ice bath will improve your brown fat, which brown fat is good for you. And the brown fat is located around the clavicles and the upper back. So my wife so we're all taking rotations in the ice bath, and we're outside, we're in the jacuzzi, but we got the ice bath out there. So whoever's not in the ice bath, we're all sitting in the jacuzzi. Yeah. So my wife gets into the ice bath, and my son this whole time has been yelling at everyone, get your brown fat in there. Come on. Meaning you got to get down to your neck.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So my wife is in there, and I'm like, come on, darling, get your brown fat down in there. Hostilities were received. She said, don't you tell me about that. I was like, okay, darling.
Nicole will never cold plunge.
Okay.
And we have one at the Cave facility. She will not do it. We had that boy at 38 degrees, and the record is 22 minutes in that. Yeah, and we were taught. Actually, Andy Frisella taught me to go to the earlobes.
Yeah, that's to get the brown fat in there.
Boy, you talking about refocusing? Yeah. Nicole would never cold plunge. Yeah, we have a sauna. She's cool with that, but yeah, she would yell at me if I ever made a cold. And dare I hold her shoulders down in the water? Like you can't get that. You can't get out. You got to at least do 20 seconds.
That happened, but the whole family's like, oh, you know.
So you guys did it outside.
Yeah. But you know, my point in saying that was like, other than that outburst, we'll call that winter of 2023. You know, like I really like listen to what my wife has to say, and I try and figure out how she's right and I'm wrong. It's usually not that hard. But so, you know, again. When we talk about, my point in saying this is most people, when they think of communicating, they think of me. I'm going to talk. I was working with a client at Echelon Front, and he was having an issue with one of his employees, and he was going to give him a call. And so I'm like, okay, yep, sounds good. So he gives him a call, talks to him, calls me back. He says, oh, I just had a great conversation with so-and-so. I said, oh, that's awesome. I said, what percentage of time did you talk and what percentage of time did he talk? And he was just quiet because he knew. He knew he had gone on the thing and said, you know, Jason, I was thinking about what the last project that you work on, you showed up a little bit late. And he went on and talked, and it was a great conversation for him. But what's Jason thinking on the other end? Jason's like, oh, here it is. Big boss man laying into me again. I can't get 2 words in edgewise. And so just keep that in mind. You know, when communication, the best communication is when you listen to what the other person has to say. And that allows you time to think how you can really articulate and verbally process correctly what you want to say.
That's good. Yeah.
Because otherwise, man, if you're just listening, that was a great listening to respond, what you said earlier. So smart. Don't do that.
That's good. That's good.
You got another section in here, staying in shape. Just gonna throw it out there. We're working out, man. We're working out. You gotta stay in shape.
Yeah.
Gotta stay in shape.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing I noticed. My wife would tell me, I train jiu-jitsu a lot, and if I don't train, she'll, you know, for a couple days, she'll be like, you need to go train. You know, because my attitude is just like starts becoming a little bit, maybe not, you know, it's a little bit more unhappy, because jiu-jitsu makes me very happy. Jiu-jitsu makes me very happy.
You know what? I agree, man. I even think we should never allow the warrior to die in us. You know, as you get older, I've been convicted of that a lot lately, is to get back and train, get some guys maybe my age, you know. The time for me to go into jiu-jitsu gyms is so hard because of my job and pouring, like, because either it's real early or it's in the afternoon when I'm teaching. And I miss it, you know. And when that warrior dies, a part of you go. And I think every man, no matter our age, if you can't go as hard, do something. You know, don't let the warrior die. And you get so busy that you neglect that side. And then you wonder why he comes out at times that he shouldn't. That's probably what your wife would see, you know. And it's like, I remember my blood pressure was the lowest when I was getting thrown the most. My anxiety was, I could deal with anything. Man, the way I was getting, boom, whipping, and you had to stay calm, and you couldn't really plan your hard fall or your break fall. I was in life, I was like, it's nothing. This is nothing out here. But when I stopped, I noticed like, well, this is anxiety. I don't do this anymore. You know, after taking care of my mom with dementia, you know, like, you can't control nothing. And you learn to accept more than to try to control anything. And when I stopped training a lot because of the injuries, I'm like, I see it immediately. You can see something is missing. And I believe we should never let that warrior die in us. I don't care if you can if you got to do Tai Chi, do something.
Do it.
Do something to
I'm
keep
looking
them
forward to
activated.
my Tai Chi days.
Yeah. You're going to add some jiu-jitsu with it somehow.
130. That's
You're going to call it Tai Jitsu. It's probably something is it something Tai Jitsu?
There probably is. That sounds kind of familiar. Yeah, dude. I always say do what you can.
Yeah.
Do what you can.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Next section, the father. Clearly, this is one we've been talking about. The father desires his children's trust and provides a safe space for them to receive love, learn from their mistakes, and conquer their fears. Desires for his children's trust. That's a very important way of wording that. It doesn't say demand children's trust. You got to earn that.
Yes.
You got to earn that. And how do you earn it? You got to give them some. And there's a little bit. There's risk. Kids aren't always going to do what you want them to do. Kids are going to make mistakes. Kids are going to do dumb things. And if you just snatch all their trust away from them, look, sometimes they deserve that. Sometimes they're going to get, grounded.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
They're going to lose privileges. Echo and I talk a lot about children and privileges. Because when you start breaking down the privileges that your kids have.
Yes.
House, roof, food, phone, power, bedspread, pillow, clothing. It's a long list. So when we start revoking some of those privileges, we can tighten things up real quick.
Yes. And it's needed. Good reminder. Yeah.
No, but this is just a great chapter. And obviously the details that you put in here represent a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today. And
the son is the last one.
The son is the last one.
I made that, it's the shortest, but the most important because again, that took me into a battlefield where I couldn't just be masculine. I had to be nurturing, long-suffering, patience, more tenderhearted, and that was caring for my mother. And that was really the most important characteristic that God used to shape me into a comprehensive man. She didn't need a provider per se. She still needed some help with assistance. She had Social Security and some pension. Protecting, I would say maybe when bill collectors would call and she just couldn't afford it anymore, or doctors. I remember sitting in one appointment, he literally was just pushing psych meds on her, and I was like, do you know her backstory? He was like, no. Why do I need to know the backstory? I said, so you know exactly what to prescribe or if she needs prescription medication. My mother, what she went through, he didn't know any of that. And that's when we wanted to get a psych evaluation. So that was the protector. But what my mother really needed during that time was the nurturer. Because the nurturer, to some extent, is the protector as well. He's caring. He's combing her hair, things I would never have done, filing her fingernails, painting her fingernails, washing her up when the caregiver, Kathy, could. That's why I said we have to be more than masculine. Don't get rid of your masculinity, your attributes. Again, now you got another deficit. We've mastered that. Let's stretch a little further and grow a little further to become comprehensive as men. Then the world, I know, will be better because now we're not just limited. We're multifaceted instead of monofaceted, I guess, And so that's why I close with that chapter because, no one wants to see their parents go through an illness like Alzheimer's or dementia or cancer, and then to be present and stay there, no matter how hard it is, no matter how late it is, how many times she forgets the answer you gave her. You say it 20 more times without an attitude. That does something to a man. Yeah, it shaped me into who I am today. And what's interesting is that video went viral, I think 3 months after she passed. God knew what he was doing. It was like he was training me for what was coming. He says, if I don't help you get your emotions in check, if I don't teach you how to be comprehensive, if I don't show you really what sacrifice isn't doing what needs to be done. It's doing what needs to be done that you don't want to do. And that's when I learned, I got it now. And when she passed, a friend of mine, like a spiritual sister, she said, you thought you were releasing her, but she was releasing you. And that hit like a ton of bricks. But she was like a sensei. My mother, that whole 6-7 year journey, the phone calls, 2 a.m. Mom isn't acting. She's very combative. I need you to come by. And I got to be at work in 5 hours. And I would leave angry at God, like, why is this happening? And he says, really, think back to when you were young and you would come home at 3 a.m. and Mom would stay up all night and she didn't know if you made it and she lost a son already. And I said, you are just. And I would just go and take my medicine. And when I got the lesson, he freed Mom, and then Mom freed me, to be the man this moment demands, and just walk in my calling unashamedly, and to give men a message that I didn't create. It came from God, and it's how he created us to be. One of the greatest warriors in the Bible is David, and he cried and prayed the majority of the Psalms, but he still was the king and the warrior. And that's all as men we desire, is to be human. And so,
well, like you said, you close out the book with that chapter. I want to close out the book for this episode here. You say this is actually, I'm closing out with something from the beginning. You say, take action. Throughout this book, I will encourage you not only to read, but also to take action. The only way you can change the man you are is to free yourself from pre-existing paradigms. So at each step of the journey together, choose to act on what you learn. Mm-hmm. Start now. So it's, something that I didn't really mention about the book is you have like things throughout the book that are procedures. It's like you said, it's an instruction thing. So you have some procedures, actions to follow in each of the chapters. Like here's the topic, and here's some actions you can take, whether it's cold plunging, whether it's making a budget, right? Like sit down and make a budget, whether it's managing boundaries, setting up boundaries, whether it's taking your family out to dine in a public place that's a little bit above the standard of the normal place that you go to, whether it's sitting down and doing drills for silent communication, communicating with your spouse without having to talk. So you explain how to do them. And then finally, there's a part of it that's throughout the book, and that is the affirmations. It's like you call it a mirror drill. Did you make that up?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I made it up. It's always science behind talking to yourself in the mirror. But for men, what I notice is that we have a hard time looking at ourselves without trying to shave or make ourselves look better, but just intently look into your own eyes and see something good. A lot of men's retreats I go on, and the things that I would hear, the self-condemning words like, look at you, loser, and like, man, this is your normal talk to yourself. And so I wanted to put the mirror drill in there for you to not only look at yourself in an intimate way, like, I'm not this bad guy. I may be wounded, but I'm not this bad guy, and I can improve. But also to say the things that you won't do anymore. Like one line in there is that I'm not an alpha male. I'm a human being. I'm bigger than that. Like, I would not be limited by just that one definition. Respecting women, the gentleman chapter. I will respect my elders and those that are in need. Looking into your own eyes, telling that man in the mirror who you will become is a very powerful exercise. And that's why I put that at the end of each chapter.
Yeah, each chapter has one. And it has affirmations as well, and thoughts to go through.
Yes.
So really good. It's not just a book that you can read. It's got action steps that you can take to progress towards being or becoming the man that the moment demands. That's where we're at. What are you working on now? What do you got in the hopper?
Rest. That's what I want to work on. If I can. I would love to take a moment just to rest for a month. But as I'm saying that, it's like a pastor told me, sometimes like airplanes, warplanes, they have to refuel in the air. All right. And so that's just where I am right now. I would have to refuel in the air. My assistant has to take a break for a moment from the cave. I don't know if indefinite is the answer, but I have to
Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He has a big, beautiful family and has to do some things. And so I may have to gear up and, I will have to gear up and finish this group. And so I'm like that warplane. I'm going to have to refuel in the air. But when it's time for me to land, I'm going to take full advantage of it, man. So that's my focus, is the group that we have right now, 47 boys, make sure they finish the rite of passage strong.
Is the rite of passage for those 47 boys, so the boys are in the program for 4 years?
No, we've narrowed it down to 18 months intense training. And then after that, they go into the other core curriculum as far as the dining etiquette training, grooming etiquette, financial literacy, speaking and communication, as well as community service and construction skills.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So these guys got 18 months. How far are they?
Well, they're finishing, October. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And then what's like the final?
That's good. I'm glad you asked that. They go off, it's a retreat, a weekend retreat, no technology. And they're in the cabin with counselors and psychotherapists. And so it's faith-centered, of course, but imagine the child, he gets to undo his trauma as a child. So for 3 days, they're in isolation, and for at least 8 hours a day, they're doing introspective work on where they are right now. I mean, it's powerful. We have one moment where the fathers come and they have to communicate how much they love their sons and how proud they are without saying a word, only with the eyes. When I say everyone is crying in a matter of like 2 minutes, it's powerful. Because majority of times our words can't really articulate what our hearts really want to convey, but the eyes can. When you just sit and stare, and it's powerful. So that's the last day, and the camaraderie, the way they join together, and the issues they came with, they burn them, and it's really powerful. We do some psychodrama where they can go back, and then we pray, and what was really said, why wasn't that said? Just powerful. So imagine now you're undoing the trauma, you're helping them release it as middle schoolers. Mm-hmm. Now they're men with healed boys inside.
Is there a physical component? So, we get baptized.
Yeah.
What's the physical component where we now say you are
that's
a graduate?
Yeah, that's at the end. We have a ceremony as well. And it's actually during the weekend. After they finish all of the training, they go through a ceremony. We give them, actually, it's a sling and a stone of David.
There you go.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really powerful. And then they slay the giants they meant to slay that weekend. It's really good.
And how's the trajectory of the boys that have graduated in the past?
They're all performing great. You have, the stragglers, some that you have to watch a little more. Mom say, he's not doing this. Can you give him a call? But the majority are stellar. Again, it stemmed not from their inability to perform academically. It was their inability to express what was really going on inside. And once you give them that freedom to do that, it's amazing what happens to these boys. It's one of the greatest. It is the greatest work that I could do. I won't say it's my life's work yet because I'm nowhere near gone, but it's definitely to see boys' lives transformed, and then their parents. I see why I stay under spiritual attack a lot, and because you're literally changing the trajectory of some kid's future. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you got forces of darkness that don't want that to happen, and that comes with being a soldier for God. I'm not aiming to please anyone here, but Him who sent me to complete the task that he sent me to do.
Do any of the boys, or have any of the boys come back to become instructors?
Yeah, we have 6 peer instructors right now. Those are the ones you gave the rash guards to.
Got it.
Yeah, and they would love to see you. Yeah, they're phenomenal young men, and some still, they do sports and still come back, but we have a good core of 5 or 6 that's faithful in there. And in martial arts, look how many black belts are created and how many are teachers. Mm-hmm. Where are all your teachers? Like friends of mine who run jiu-jitsu gyms, it's like, man, I can't get someone in here to sacrifice their time to do what I did in them. You have maybe 3 or 4 faithfuls. As many students that's come through these doors, you should have to tell teachers, hey, I got too many teachers right now. And so it's always going to be a shortage. You know, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And so I just pray to the Lord of harvest to send me laborers, and he sends a few who are faithful. And I think it's going to, if it was like that in his time, I think we're pretty much set with what it's going to be like. It's going to be the few. And I'm just thankful for those few. They're testing right now. This is the first time I couldn't be at their fortitude test.
Oh, sorry.
And no, it's not sorry. It's a blessing because they're growing. You know, I hear the praise report from yesterday. They did well. They pushed
What's
through.
the fortitude test?
Fortitude is the ground. You have to fight, you know, so it's building fortitude. That's what we teach the jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And then,
so do they have to go against a certain number of people, do certain skill sets?
Yeah, the drills, then you have to roll live, and then full contact, punching with boxing gloves while you're on the ground, hip escape from under the standing attack, everything. And then you got the spiritual component as well, where you have to recite all of the answers to the questions that we taught you about fortitude. You know, one of them is that when Christ said that he that endures to the end shall be saved. So enduring to the end. Do you have what it takes to endure without complaining? And so that's what the fortitude module is about, and to see the students grow in that. And I remember several of my teachers and coaches, when they couldn't make it, they purposefully stayed away so that their black belts could have that experience, because you got to give them a shot. If you're always there, how will they grow? You got to let them grow. And so it was meant, God is like, I need you to be in this space, you know, transition and move forward. And so, yeah, this was a blessing. This is how he got me away. And I always wanted to have a sit-down conversation with you, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Yeah, man.
All right. Does that get us up to speed?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
So people that are looking for you, I think we went through this before, MrJasonWilson.com. And then you're on Twitter, Instagram, at Mr. Jason O. Wilson. And then you're also on YouTube at Mr. Jason O. Wilson, and Facebook, Jason Wilson. And for the nonprofit, for the charity, for the Cave, it's The Union, spelled the Y Union.org.
Or it could be a little easier, savingboys.com.
Okay, so we got a new one, savingboys.com.
Yes.
All right. Savingboys.com, and then on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, it's at Cave313. And then Facebook is Cave of Adullam Transformational Academy.
You know why we were talking about scaling a lot this episode. That's why I called it Cave 313, because hopefully it'll be another area code. Yeah.
Cave 619.
Yeah, that's how
Cave 858.
Yes. Yeah.
808.
Yes.
808.
Yeah, all right. Get those Hawaiians in. Awesome stuff.
Let me come out there. Let me be the. Let me start that one up out in Hawaii. Yeah.
Echo Charles, you got any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So, I need your opinion on this one.
Sure.
So, in the spirit of what was it called? The wearing the right uniform for the right battle?
Yes.
Or the right armor for the right battle?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Let's say hypothetically, as a jiu-jitsu person, I have a black belt that I've had since the day I got my black belt. Let's say I've had that black belt for, I don't know, 25 years or so. Right? We'll say. So it's real old, and
sure.
And then in the future, I get a brand new black belt that's like super, like, made really well, really good looking black belt, you know, made by honorable people, the whole deal, but it's brand new, right? Is it a violation, or is it directly in line with the right uniform for the right battle if I save that new black belt just for media appearances and I keep my old one for the action? Is that right, or is that wrong?
Man, this is crazy. One of my friends, Tyrone Gooden, he's a Machado black belt, jiu-jitsu. When we were working on just marketing his gym, I was like, man, I appreciate, trust, my belt is raggedy, I get it. I said, but for this picture, let's do a new one. For these, holding all of these awards you got, let's do the new one. Mm-hmm. So you're right on point. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess.
So what is it? You setting me up for something?
No, I was just wondering your opinion.
Jocko, what you think?
There are various opinions on the matter. Is what I'm saying.
I have a black belt. Yes. I didn't get it 25 years ago, but I did get it Oh, geez.
25 years?
20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
2005.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
And I've had the same black belt for 20 years. And it's old and it's weathered and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it is
Cool.
definitely.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
so Origin USA, which is a company that makes jiu-jitsu gis all in America, 100% American product made from American materials. We don't have any slave labor. We're not paying communists. We employ people and they earn a living and they learn a skill and it's awesome. And we started making jiu-jitsu belts. And so the boys sent me a beautiful Origin USA black belt. And we were just deciding, we were kind of discussing what to do with it. What? Debating. We were debating. Was that a debate?
It was. Well, I don't know if I remember correctly. You chose.
I haven't chosen anything yet.
Okay, it felt like you were really unhappy with my
What was
opinion on the matter.
Yeah,
I
you
agree
said
with
media.
Jason Wilson.
You said
media black belt. It's like it still gets the glory. You see what I'm saying? But it like the newness and the and the.
But what's interesting, I did
maintained.
a ad for Tyrone where I had him hold his black belt coiled, and it was weathered and torn, and it said over 20 years as a black belt, and that's a powerful imagery right there.
Yeah.
So it depends, that was the right armor for that fight. But for media, for the novice,
when you see someone that's wearing an old black belt though, don't you think a little bit of respect?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, absolutely.
But you think that's more respect is more warranted on the mats?
I would say the respect would be the wrong word. I would say, like I said, there are varying opinions on this matter. And I respect both of them, to be honest with you. But I think in the spirit of right uniform for the right battle, if there's going to be two different belts of just such polarizing appearances, and one is going to be chose for one and one's going to be chose for the other, boom, that's the way I see it currently.
I just like it for pictures. And then, you're trying to recruit more students and parents. They don't know what that weather belt represents. Like, man, they must be poor here,
Take pride in your appearance, bro.
If we really want to go deep on this,
yes, we do.
If I'm wearing my black gi, I could wear my old belt because it's like contrasting. And if I'm wearing a white gi, and I wear my
crispy
new black belt.
Yeah. I see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe that's the protocol.
Maybe that's the working protocol.
Now, what kind of protocol is it that I want my ego to be gratified by people seeing my black belt?
Just in general?
In general, yeah. Maybe I need to be more humble.
Yeah. So, and this is a whole nother issue, but I'm glad you brought it up. So, how because there's two kind of philosophies and sometimes there's some overlap. How some people say, hey, it doesn't matter the belt. It's just a matter of you learning and gaining skills and all this stuff. And the belt is just almost like an ego thing, and actually could be dragged into the realm of. It's kind of a hierarchy subjugation thing, like we're the black belts, we stand up here, you guys are the lower belts. Like, what do you mean? So it could be that too, you see what I'm saying? But I think the real value in the belt is almost like a standard of reminder to tell you hey, you have to maintain a certain level to yourself.
That's good.
And it's like a reminder and you get to wear it just like anything else, you see what I'm saying? Like any kind of, I don't know, I guess any kind of uniform, really.
That's good.
Like, when you play football or whatever, you have your number. And a lot of people, they stick with that number, And then if they do really, really well, they retire the number. It's like a thing, So,
it's interesting when you talked about those shoulder pads I had on in the last episode, how I missed the catch.
Yeah.
Because the ball went past my hands and hit the chest and the shoulder pads. I had those on to impress the cheerleaders.
Yeah, because you wanted to look bigger.
Yeah. And so there's the ego again.
Yeah. I played receiver too, by the way. So.
Yeah, so you need the smaller shoulder pads. I had the linebacker shoulder pads on from the 80s. Okay.
That's how
the ones look like you were a gladiator. Yeah, them the ones I had on, man.
Any other questions, Echo?
One last thing. I brought it up kind of on break or whatever. So Lawrence Fishburne has a movie which happens to be my favorite movie of Lawrence Fishburne. Not as well known as The Matrix and stuff, even though I do like The Matrix.
Are we not going to talk about Apocalypse Now here?
No, not Apocalypse Now.
Boy, I hear that, yeah.
It's called Always Outnumbered.
I never heard of that.
Always Outnumbered, Always Outgunned. Didn't get the promotion, all this stuff. But in my opinion, one of his best. In my opinion, it's my favorite movie of him.
Wow.
But it's about basically he he just gets out of jail for some heinous charges or whatever, and he just gets out of jail. He has to rebuild his life in like South Central, and he's struggling with the old him, but he's freaking, he's bent on really forging the right path, but he's struggling, hardcore struggling. And then so he's trying to get a job, he's trying to hold the job, but he's kind of mean a little bit, so it's like you kind of sympathize with him, but you're like, bro, you can't be doing that, you're rubbing people the wrong way, kind of a thing. And then kind of out of nowhere, like this kid comes into his life. And now he has to kind of mentor this kid because the kid comes from, a bad background, but the kid wants to do the right thing, but he's in the wrong path. So it ends up being kind of like he's trying to rediscover a new life for himself and this kid or whatever. It turns out it's really good, really well done.
How old is this movie?
1998, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
There's some always outnumbered.
Always outgunned.
Oh, it's both. Okay.
Or it could be just the one. I always knew it as the one. There's a lot of people like Bill Cobb's in that. I think Natalie Cole's in that. Isaiah Washington's in there.
Was he was the main actor?
He's the main guy. Socrates Fortlow.
Right, I watched that was your favorite movie. Then,
I've seen it many, many times. Yeah, it's really good.
I'm gonna ask him about that.
Worth the watch. Oh yeah, 100%.
Jack, right on.
But yeah, good to meet you, sir.
You too, man.
Right on. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Jason, any closing thoughts?
No, man. Thank you for having me, man. Long time coming. Appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's affecting a lot of people. Yeah, more than you know. You know a lot, but it's more than you know, man.
Appreciate it, man, and back at you. And thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing all your experiences and your lessons learned. Yes. And thank you for what you're doing right now to help so many people, children and adults, to find the path of the Most High and move them toward the light.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
And with that, Jason Wilson has left the building, leaving us with a lot to think about, leaving us with a lot to work on, a lot of ways to improve mentally, spiritually, physically.
Yes, sir.
To become a comprehensive man. The physical part, we're working out.
Yep.
We're training jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling. Yup, and yup. Lifting.
Of course.
Lifting, as you like to say. Running.
Sure.
Hey, as you're doing all that stuff, you're going to need fuel. We recommend, you heard review, impromptu review on the last podcast.
In real time.
From Jason Wilson, real time. Yep. Drinking, hydrate. He was drinking.
Yep.
Loving it. Check out JockoFuel.com. By the way, you can text Jocko Fuel to 24672. And I'll send you like some voicemails.
Yeah.
Get in the game with that one. So check it out, JockoFuel.com. We got protein. We got energy. We got milk. We got hydration. We got joint warfare, super krill oil, time. We got all time war. We got everything that you need. Creatine. How's your creatine?
It's consistent.
How much a day?
5 to 10 grams.
That's not consistent.
Yeah, it is.
Consistent would be 5 grams or 10 grams.
Oh, no. Every day. Well, because I lost my scoop. Like, hey, that's a whole nother story.
Which we don't want to hear.
No, you don't want to hear. But so I use like a plastic spoon. So I just estimate it. But I overestimate rather than underestimate.
You're probably doing 14.
Maybe.
That's 18.
It is what it is.
Get on creatine.
Every day, though. Every day. That's why I say every day.
Get on the creatine.
Yeah.
Also, we have this stuff available at Walmart. We have it available at Wawa. We have it available at Vitamin Shop, GNC, Military Commissaries, AFES, Hannaford's. We're at Dash Stores in Maryland, Wake Fern and ShopRite, HEB down in Tejas. Have you seen the displays in Texas at HEB? They're legit.
Yeah.
Meijer. So if you're up in the Jason Wilson area, you go to Meijer. You can get yourself some. Wegmans out there on the East Coast. Harris Teeter. Publix. We're now in Publix down in Florida. Rocking. Lifetime Fitness. Shields. Dick's Sporting Goods.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Added to the list.
All right.
So we're getting out there. If you need it, you can get it. Jocko Fuel. Go and check it out. Also, OriginUSA.com. Because we're training jiu-jitsu. Gi, no gi. Both. We need to wear a jiu-jitsu uniform. We want to wear one that is American made. That's not made with slavery. That is not made by ruining the environment. So go to originusa.com. We also have jeans. We also have t-shirts. We also have hoodies, which I'm going to be putting on here shortly. We have shorts. We have workout gear. We have hunt gear. We have everything that you need. Boots. Did you get a new pair of boots yet?
Not since the last one, no.
Okay. The new boots are awesome.
Yeah. Is that the one you had on the other day when we were making a video?
Yes. Yes.
Very luxurious.
They're epic.
Mm-hmm.
Epic boots. So we got everything that you need. Made 100% in America. Maine and North Carolina. From 100% American materials. OriginUSA.com. Check that out. It's true. Yes,
awesome. Also, Jocko has a store called Jocko Store. So, JockoStore.com. Right? Display is where the merch is.
Mm-hmm.
What's new at Jocko Store?
Tell me about it.
Before I get to what's new, let me tell you what's existing has been existing. Discipline equals freedom stuff. Shirts, hoodies, some hats on there. Some shorts on there, too, by the way. Don't forget about those. Summer's coming up. Maybe not soon, but kind of soon. Just keep that in mind. The Shirt Locker subscription shirt scenario. New design every month. This month, Discipline equals freedom instead of drinking. That's essentially my little impromptu working title.
Okay. That's interesting.
If you go on, if you click on Shirt Locker, you can kind of see the sneak peek.
What's the sneak peek? Give us a verbal.
Verbal. It's like instead of Dos Equis, it's like X display equals freedom.
Got it. See, look at you.
Hey man, it's good. Anyway, yeah, news.
That sounded very uncool in your initial description, and now real cool after you explained it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is in the execution for sure. You know,
sounds like you executed properly, my good man.
So far, so good. So anyway, yes, all in Jocko's are what's new. Okay, I've been talking about socks for a long time. We finally got socks. That's new. Also, this probably within the next 4 weeks, we're gonna have new Discipline equals freedom shirts, new design.
Check.
Anyway, there's a place on the bottom of the website you can sign up, put your email in there so you can be on the list, so you get informed when these new things kind of pop up or whatever, so you get first crack at them. You know, a lot of times we can't be ordering like millions and millions of these things, so in the event of them being in limited supply, be sure that you get kind of the head of the line scenario, through email. So yeah, it's all at JockoStore.com. It's true.
Also check out ColoradoCraftBeef.com and PrimalBeef.com. Awesome steak from awesome companies, awesome people. Colorado Craft Beef has beef sticks that are like a Snickers bar for life. Mm-hmm. They're good for you. They taste good. They give you what you need. That's at ColoradoCraftBeef.com. And then Primal Beef has jerky now, which is freaking legit.
Yep.
PrimalBeef.com. Check out their jerky. Look, get burgers. Get the beef franks. Get the steaks, but get some of that jerky too, because it's fire, as the young kids say.
Fire, hell yeah.
Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to Jocko Underground, subscribe to the YouTube channels. Psychological Warfare, you can check that out. FlipsideCanvas.com. Also, books. So you heard from Jason Wilson today. He's got 3 books. The first one's Cry Like a Man. That's the kind of the origin story. Battlecry, his first guidebook, and then finally this most recent book, which we covered today, The Man the Moment Demands. All those are by Jason Wilson. Great books. Please check them out. Give them as gifts. They will help people. Also, I've written a bunch of books, including a bunch of kids' books, which I obviously do a really bad job of telling people about. So I'm telling you right now, if you know a kid, any kid, between the ages of 3 and 38, get them the Warrior Kid books. It will make their lives better. Also, Echelon Front, we have a leadership consultancy. You heard me talk some leadership principles over the past couple podcasts. We put those principles to work at Echelon Front, making companies better through leadership. So go to echelonfront.com for that. We also have a bunch of events that you can come and attend. Everything from the Muster, which is a leadership conference, to the FTX, to Council, to Battlefield. We've got a bunch of awesome events. So check those out at echelonfront.com. We also have online training. The online training can be found at extremeownership.com. And this is training for leadership skills. And you might think, well, I'm not a general in the Army or an admiral in the Navy or the chief operating officer of some big company. I don't need leadership skills. Actually, you do. You heard us talking about them today. And the last podcast with Jason Wilson. You interact with other people, including your wife, including your husband, including your kids, including your coworkers, including your friends and your peers, the people you train with. If you interact with those people, which you do, you're in a leadership position. So we want to teach you the skills of leadership. So go to extremeownership.com to check those out. And if you want to help out service members, active and retired, you want to help out their families, Gold Star families, check out Mark Lee's mom, Mama Lee. She's got an incredible charity organization. And if you want to donate or you want to get involved, go to americasmightywarriors.org. Also check out heroesandhorses.org. This is Micah Fink's organization. I got to go there and visit with him. It's up in Montana. Takes our veterans up into the woods where they go through a cleansing of the soul. That's heroesandhorses.org. Jimmy May has an organization, beyondthebrotherhood.org. And also, you've got theunion.org. This is Jason Wilson's organization, the Y union.org. Also, savingboys.com. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, at Cave313. Also, if you want to connect with Jason Wilson on the interwebs, MrJasonWilson.com. And Twitter, Instagram, he's Mr. Jason O. Wilson. So check those out. For us, you can find me at Jocko.com. You can also find both of us on social media. Do you have some kind of a interwebs website?
Not really. Nothing actionable. You know,
Okay.
you're going to go there and you're going to be like, whatever. It's like,
Okay.
you know.
So don't worry
no.
about it. So if we're looking for you or me, they can find me with Jocko.com, but they can find you at Echo Charles on the social media activities.
Correct.
I'm at Jocko Willink on the social media activities. Just be careful, because don't let those activities turn into an addiction, which is what happens. Yep. Thanks once again to Jason Wilson for coming out here and spending all this time talking through his lessons learned, his protocols. Outstanding. Much appreciated. Thank you, Jason, for continuing to help people around the world. Also, thanks to the men and women of our armed forces who are out there on the front lines currently protecting us and our way of life. Also, thanks to our police, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, correctional officers, Border Patrol, Secret Service, and all the other first responders who are doing the same thing, protecting us right here at home. Thank you all. And to everyone else out there, in the book Battlecry by Jason Wilson, he refers to a quote that encapsulates a powerful idea, and that idea is, you must be broken to become whole. And I think there's two aspects to that. Number one, if you want to become whole, you got to break yourself. That means you got to push yourself. That's how you become stronger, smarter, better. That's how you become whole. I think it's also important to think about the fact that the world's going to push you. The world is going to push you and break you. But that activity is what makes us strong and powerful and whole in the end. So if you want to be a comprehensive human, in a sense, in the end, we must go for broke. Until next time, this is Echo and Jocko. Out.